Sid and Friends in the morning.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
George Borrello, our state senator from Chautauqua, where I spent a summer as a 7-year-old and lost almost all my clothes that I had that year.
You spent time in Chautauqua, too?
I did.
Where haven't you been?
My parents rented a house near the big amphitheater there.
Yeah, beautiful spot.
Unbeknownst to them, there was a big organ in that amphitheater, and someone was practicing it, usually very late at night. Actually, I really enjoyed my time there, Senator. But I did lose a number of my items from the day camp, and my mother is still very upset about this. If you find a blue windbreaker from 1977, please call me.
Is a Star Wars windbreaker, perhaps?
No, I wish it were. But it's a beautiful area up there.
49 years ago?
Yeah, about almost 49 years ago. Yeah. It would have been 49 years ago. But fun fact, also from the Jamestown area, Lucille Ball, correct?
That's correct, yes. Yeah. In fact, we have the National Comedy Center in downtown Jamestown. It is an amazing place. If you have not been to Western New York, go to Jamestown, go to the National Comedy Center. And every year in early August, we have the Lucille Ball Comedy Festival with A-list comedians. We had Jerry Seinfeld. Actually, this year, Jerry Seinfeld, Sebastian Maniscalco, A-list comedians in the little community of Jamestown, New York. It's an amazing place.
Now, one of my Freedom 250, The Decisions That Made America features was on Lucille Ball because she was an incredibly smart businesswoman.
Yes.
So first, when she was still married to Desi Arnaz, they decided to create a production company to create I Love Lucy, and then that was kind of sold to see. So, in other words, she took control of it, and then when they got divorced, she became the first woman to run a real studio in Hollywood, and that studio was responsible for a couple little things like Star Trek, Mission Impossible that no one else would have produced.
But I remember the name of the company, Desi Lou.
Desi Lou.
Right. Well, she is dead.
Yeah, she did pass away in 1989.
You're not going to murder anyone today on the show, right? You murdered Linda yesterday.
I did. I'm very proud of the fact that we immediately corrected it. We didn't even go to commercial break. I accidentally
I scratched my head and I said, is she dead?
No, she's not.
No, he's a murderer. I'm telling you.
Sadly, she is suffering from an incredibly rare disease that is incurable. We certainly are praying for her. But yes, I apologize once again. She's one of my favorite singers, and for some reason, I guess I thought she had passed away. But Linda Ronstadt is still with us, and may she get better.
Listen, today's our last day here, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
And I just want to say good morning to everyone. It's been an incredible week filling in for Sid and Friends. Sid, thank you for trusting us with your audience. Anytime you need to take off, we're ready to take over again.
Well, there you go. Listen, one of the big things that people are talking about here in New York City this morning is this decision by the city to freeze the rent, which, look, obviously rents are very high in the city. I do believe there's time for compassion, but if you think this is compassionate to the tenants, anything longer than this 1 year, you're being very foolish. Their rents will be jacked up much higher.
You know what would be fair? And I'm telling this to every business person out there. And, I understand, the socialists want to play the violin that, see, we're doing something for you. All right. You want to reduce the rents? You want to reduce price increases? Well, why don't you reduce the real estate taxes to compensate for not being able to raise the rents.
And the water charges are going up. Huge increase there.
John hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
you know what? Don't increase the expenses and lower the rents.
Of the landlords.
It makes no sense.
Low. If you want to lower the rents, lower the rents, lower the real estate taxes. It makes sense, right?
Of course.
Yeah. This is common sense. George Borrello, you're a state senator, but you're a businessman too. What do you think?
Well, first of all, New York City's unique, right? You've got this huge amount of people in a very small space, essentially, and rents are high. It's a supply and demand thing. But what you're doing is you're basically saying we're going to limit your ability to care for these properties, to do the upkeep that you need, and also as you said, John, there's a lot of other expenses here, and a lot of them are burdens on the property owners. And look, you want to know who the worst landlord in New York City is? NYCHA.
No, the city.
New York City
itself.
Housing Authority.
Yeah, exactly. The New York City Housing Authority is the worst. It's a slumlord, the biggest slumlord in the city. So what's being done about that? And you're going to drive more people out of the private property business. And that's what they want. They want to confiscate property. This is the socialist agenda. And you do that by death by 1,000 cuts. We're not going to let you make money. We're not going to let you do the things you need to do. We're going to convert your buildings to all electric at huge expenses. So you want to save, you want to make rent more affordable. Let's not make everybody convert their buildings to all electric, which is going to be a huge cost. Huge
supply and demand. If you want the price of something where demand isn't elastic. I mean, people are going to want to live in a house, right? Yeah. So or an apartment. That's not going to change. You have to increase supply.
That's right.
Period. And you're not going to increase supply by raising the costs and all the regulatory barriers, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, the only people who really have the money and the capital to build more are the higher end builders. So what you do is let them build more, because then the higher end now will become a little less expensive, and it will trickle down. That's the way that works. If you tell everyone, hey, we'll let you build in New York City, but it's got to be $200 a month rent, I mean, no one's going to build.
Listen, I have a different take on this whole thing here. I think that the socialists are playing the cards right. I believe that wealthy people should play their cards now, right?
The PR card, the public relations card.
Not only the public relations card, the human side of a billionaire, of a multimillionaire. You know, if you own a few buildings, lower the rents a little bit and write it off. Write it off, because it's legal to do that. You know, I bought a truck, cost me around $90,000. I was going to sell it. Instead, I'm going to donate it to one of WABC's advertisers who does a lot of good things. There, what's the name?
Cars for Kids.
Cars for Kids.
Something like that.
Right,
yeah.
I'm going to call Cars for Kids, and I'm going to donate the truck, and I'm going to write it off. That's it. It's simple. So let's hit them back harder than they hit us.
You make a good point, but not everyone has the income to write off. You know, that's the thing.
No, I'm talking about the big ones. The big guys. The
Okay.
guys. Listen, you go to Mott Haven in the Bronx.
Yeah, those guys.
They built that up tremendously. You have like 8,000 apartments, and they're all empty. Why? Because the rents are too high. People in that area can't afford it, and the gentrifiers haven't gotten there yet. The socialists have not gotten to Mott Haven yet, right? So those landlords should lower the rents, make them affordable, rather than $4,000, charge $2,000, and write the rest off.
Well, I have an even more capitalist idea, Fernando and Senator Borrello and John. I think, you know, one of the things that's incredibly valuable about a city like New York City, and there's very few other places like this anywhere in this country, is you have massive potential foot traffic by your retail property. And I know Amazon is taking over a lot of things, but foot traffic is even more valuable because of that. If I had that kind of money to invest in new buildings and things like that, one of my great public relations move would be to have lower rents, but for the tenants, for the people living there. But for retailers, I could say, listen, I'm guaranteeing you a large building where there's going to be a lot of foot traffic to your store, and make my money back with the commercial real estate.
You know what? Just write the whole thing off. give them businesses give them bodegas, give them supermarkets that they can come in and shop to. Give them restaurants. You know, what are you going to do? You donate it to causes where people steal 80% of your donation.
Yeah.
You know, there are organizations, not for profits. You donate $1,000, they use $800 for their expenses, and they spend $20,000 on whatever their mission is.
Well, let's talk about a free market thing that's happening without any socialism, which is also helping our consumers this morning, and that is the price of oil, where we just briefly dipped to the $68 a barrel level, all the way. I mean, almost half of what it was just a couple of months ago, a month and a half ago, whatever it was, when we were at 120. And the national average for 1 gallon of gas now at $3.90. That's 35 out of the last 36 days. It's gone down. You know, you don't like these speculators when they drive the price up, but they've been driving it down fast. And July 4th next weekend, I think we're going to see a handle much lower than $3.90 by then.
Not fast enough.
Yeah, but
they're
still,
not lowering fast enough. And the president is right in saying that they're not lowering it fast enough.
But it is lower. We can, at least we have good news on that. And you know, this is not free. You know, a lot of people say freeze the prices. What if we had frozen the price at 4? We'd be stealing money from our own people right now. So let it keep going down. Whether you think it's going down fast enough is a different argument, but definitely we're talking about. But still, look, we're at 60. We're probably going to get back down to 68 in a few minutes. This is a good development, and even though Iran attacked, once again, what did we all say when the agreement was made? Not if Iran will break it. It's just when they'll break it. And they attacked a commercial ship in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday afternoon, going into the evening. Oil shot up briefly, but then they thought better of it.
Let's get this straight. We straightened it out last night at 5 o'clock.
Oh, you did? Good.
The truth is that it's not they. Probably a single, we had KT McFarlane on last night. It's probably a single individual that had an extra drone. You can't eliminate, it wasn't a massive attack. It was one drone, one cargo ship. There's always going to be how do you say it in Brooklyn? Schmuck?
A schmuck, yeah.
There's always going to be a schmuck somewhere that has one drone left and wants to stir the pot.
Hamas does this all the time, by the way. One person fires a rocket sometimes. And
that's it. And you're never going to, you can never get 100%.
I agree. 100%.
But you know what happens?
Well, the markets agree with you, too.
They
send it down.
forced the price of oil like $2.
But it went right back down.
You know how much money that is, $2?
They messed up your prediction. They messed up your prediction.
No, but it's going. But it's
nothing to do with my prediction.
It's all going back.
Okay? But this is what it is. So I tell all people that dealing in the markets, don't panic over nonsense, guys. Stuff happens, and stuff is always going to happen.
Well, the markets are always worried about something, but again, if you go to the gas pump in most of the year, I'm down to 370 by me, and I told you, if you asked me about a mid-grade yesterday, Fernando, because I don't do mid-grade, I do the cheap grade.
Yeah, I don't know, you're cheap.
But I texted you yesterday, and I think I said it was only 406 for mid-grade at my station, so not
You
bad.
shop around for gas. You drive a mile to save a gallon. I don't understand that.
I know those people that drive 2 miles, spend 20 cents in extra fuel, but they save 12 cents.
Yeah, well, that's Jake.
No, I have
principle.
where I live, I actually have.
You're right. I do. Jake, I've got to confess, I do the same thing. Yeah. I swear to God, I know where the cheapest gas stations are, and if it's 3-4 miles away from me, I still go there.
No, I don't do
because
that.
Psychologically, 10 cents that you spend on let's say 20 gallons is $2.
Yeah. No. What I do is something similar to that, which is I know the cheapest gas station in my neighborhood, and I make sure that when I'm near that area anyway for another thing, that's when I fill up, no matter how much. So even if I have only a quarter of a tank left to fill up, I'll go there.
Well, you don't drive that much. You know what? I follow the lead from the cab drivers. The cab drivers know exactly where to go.
And when to go.
And they do their thing the right way. So, listen, cab drivers should be listening to WABC every morning so that they get the latest on gas prices, on oil prices, so that they get the latest on who's here in the studios. I guarantee you that they are so happy that Earth, Wind, and Fire are here this week. But you know what? We're turning over the studio to sit again.
State Senator George Borrello is with us as well in studio. And Senator, we had you on the phone a couple of days ago to talk about the Republican Party in the state, where you're one of the spokesmen for. So, Fernando and I talked about something just off the air before the show started, which was some of these socialist candidates winning these congressional primaries, which I think is very frightening, especially this Daria Chevalier, who says she wants to wipe her hands with the American flag. She's viciously anti-Semitic, and I'll say that. Sid would say the same. I know he would say the same. Could somebody like Adriano Espaillat, who lost this primary, just as a political expert like yourself, Senator Borrello, should he run as an independent in the general election?
Do an Andrew Cuomo?
Yeah, Andrew Cuomo. Should he do it?
As a Republican, I'd love to see him do that, because that'll split the vote and hopefully put it in the hands of the Republicans.
Right. Okay, give them a chance.
For Republican strategy. But look, it was not just congressional candidates. We had candidates in the Senate and the Assembly. Look, I know everybody focuses on D.C. and Congress, and certainly it's very important. But your everyday life is far more impacted by what happens in Albany than what happens in Washington. And the people that won these primaries in a very low turnout, by the way,
very low.
10% of the registered Democrats in some cases.
Incredible.
So, and by the way, this is from the party of voter suppression, and but yet they're making decisions on 1 in 10 of their of their voters, making a choice.
A Tuesday afternoon in the middle of the summer is a form of voter suppression.
100%.
Deliberate by Democrats.
And by the way, that was when Democrats took control. That was one of the things they changed. They moved the primaries from September to June, and then also having to collect signatures on petitions in February and March. Which where I live, it's pretty darn cold.
September 11th, the day of the attack, was a primary day here in New York. People forget that. They had to redo it. But yes, it used to be in September, and it was a little bit more in people's minds and consciences. People were at school, kids were at school. Yes. I mean, the regular day-to-day stuff. Where you represent, let's get a little bit more local because all politics is local. Yes. You represent. We made our jokes about Chautauqua and my missing clothing and Jamestown. What are it's
beautiful country.
It's beautiful country.
Yes.
You have a lot of celebrities who own property around there and things like that. And that's great maybe for some things, but what are the major economic issues there that might resonate for everyone else around the country? I mean, this is our chance to kind of tap into a non-city type of politics and economics.
Most of New York State is rural. The number one industry in New York State, believe it or not, is agriculture. People think it's finance, but it's actually agriculture.
Apples and
grapes. So our concerns are like everyone else: the loss of population. The fact that our children are leaving. I speak a lot at schools, and I speak to government classes.
That Buffalo area.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm in Western
how
New
many
York.
people were in Buffalo 40 years ago, and how many are now?
Well, there's a lot less.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. The population loss, state in general, but it's been particularly hard in upstate New York. And people say, well, there's no jobs there. That's really not true. We have jobs. We don't have people that have the skills to fill the jobs that are open. We need more people that are in the trades. People that are welders and plumbers and carpenters. There's a severe shortage of these, and we're trying to push back in the sense of trying to get kids into the STEM and STEAM. Look, I come from a family of plumbers. My father, my grandfather. I didn't want to go into the plumbing business. My grandfather, my father, they wanted me to go to college. But we've been telling kids that for 40 years, and look what we have now. We have a shortage of people in the skilled trades. And, Mike Rowe talks about this all the time, and we don't have, so we have jobs, but we're telling people is don't go to work. Don't go to work. It's okay. You can live off the taxpayers. The biggest expense, I spent 10 years in county government. I was also county executive of Chautauqua County before I was a senator. The biggest expense by far for county government, which is property taxpayers, is welfare. It's Medicare, it's Medicaid. It's the fact that we have the safety net in New York State. People don't understand what that means. So the federal government limits you to 5 years of being on welfare. After 5 years, the federal government will no longer fund it. Then we go into states like New York that have what they call the safety net, which means forever you can live on welfare. We have multi-generational families that have been on welfare. Imagine somebody who you're trying to tell a kid to go to work who's never seen his parents or grandparents work. That's the problem that we have, and that's a problem, particularly here.
I want to hit on a couple things, both good news and bad news. The thing about the children leaving. Now, this is something that is very much one of the undercurrents of the whole migrant crisis thing. People are asking me all the time, what are so many Somalis going to Minnesota and Maine for? Well, I used to work in Maine. Fernando's going to make fun of me. Bangor, Maine. God. I lived and worked there. That is an aging population. The children are leaving. And you better believe that there are businesses and even government people as well who are, well, they might be illegal, they may not, but at least it's warm bodies coming into our population. Is there something like that going on? But before you answer that question, Buffalo, to answer John's question, the population is less than half of what it was in 1950. So it's
half,
less than half.
That's a big number.
And we also lost, that used to be a steel city as well, like Pittsburgh. A lot of steel car industry, and those all left.
But Buffalo is still having a lot of a business resurgence because the electric power there is relatively cheaper because of Niagara Falls.
Yes.
So first the Bitcoin miners plowed into Buffalo, bought vacant buildings, and put Bitcoin mining servers into a lot of buildings. Now, because of AI, Buffalo is seeing a tremendous... I mean, I have some classmates of mine in high school who are buying every building they can buy in Buffalo. Same thing in Cleveland. So there is hope, right? There's hope there.
Well, there was until they passed an AI moratorium here. At the end of session.
Okay.
Here's another thing. So AI is the new boogeyman. Okay, data centers. They don't want data centers. Now, who's they? They are, quite frankly, the socialists, the people on the left that are in charge. We passed this moratorium because we don't have enough power. Well, yeah, we don't have enough power because we have horrible energy policy here in New York State. We don't have enough power because we've shut down reliable baseload power. So who's the new boogeyman? Data centers.
Yeah,
so all those speculators, we've basically outlawed their ability to employ people, to create jobs. There's a talk of a data center in my district that could create 125 high-paying jobs in a very poor rural area. It's going to provide needed funding to complete a major water project, and it's going to be transformational. But right now, if the governor signs this moratorium, it's going to, that's it. It's going to be done.
And State Senator Borrello, who was paying the money in these anti-data center campaigns?
China.
It's China.
That's right. That's the part people don't get. Look at over the years, we've had a lot of useful idiots here in the United States, and the new useful idiot is the one who's standing up and rallying against these things. And by the way, I'm not saying it's I'm not trying to be a pro data center, but I am pro growth. Also, we don't have the ability. New York State forces down the throats of our rural communities all these boondoggle green energy projects, wind and solar and battery storage. We have the Office of Renewable Energy Siting, ORES, which can come into a community and just roll over local opposition, local zoning laws. They can cancel, roll over DEC regulations, wetland regulations, because that's the crisis that we're trying to address here. Which is, again, it's just an investment scam, is what it really is. But yet, with data centers, which are a much smaller footprint, which are going to create much more economic impact, we're going to shut those down. That's the hypocrisy out of Albany.
Fernando, this is something that you're the people that you're always so much in connection with, the bodega owners, the cab drivers, and things like that. This is a world that they may not be able to really truly understand, as far as like these data centers and the fact that if we don't get the power, we're not going to have the gas station or the food coming from, agriculture is the number one. I mean, those bodegas need to get those fruits and vegetables from somewhere.
They do. And listen, we're always shopping around for where we can buy stuff for less, right? Jamestown, how far is Jamestown, Senator, from New York City?
From New York City? Well, it's I'll be finding out in a few minutes because I'm going to be leaving. I don't know where.
You've been in the city?
Yeah, I've been in the city here, okay. but I actually drove this trip, but it's a good 6.5, 7 hours. It's a long way from New York City. And again, New York's a huge state.
But when you listen to WABC on the radio, the drive is much shorter.
It is, and I've got the app. I have the app on my phone, so I can listen to it.
So probably by the end of Brian Kilmeade's show, you'll be back home, something like that. But no, that's an important factor. Look,
Judge Weinberg has entered the studio.
Judge, all rise, all rise for the judge.
I have his seat.
My favorite group, my favorite state senator.
Yeah. Thank you.
Senator Borrello, how are you?
Yeah, you're on, Judge. Judge, we were just talking about this rent freeze decision.
It's totally illegal.
It's totally illegal. But the thing is that
no, I mean, all joking around. I mean, the only person on the board. Judge, tell us about the person on the board.
Person on the board is the way the board is constituted. You have representatives from landlords, from tenants, and so-called independents. And what happened was a number of Adams people resigned. Mondami packed the board with his
Loyalists.
people.
They were forced to resign, I heard.
That I don't
Pressured.
know.
Nicer word.
That may or may not be, but let's be clear. They did resign. Then Mondami did pack the board. So what happened was you had this one lawyer. Her name is Christina Smith. She's the landlord representative. And she said that this was an unfair practice. They never looked at the conditions that the landlords were facing, that this was a hardship to them. They never did what they had to do lawfully, that this whole process, in fact, the hearing, the vote last night, was all a fix. It was all nonsense. It was all a charade. It was a predetermined result, and she did not want to be part of this charade or this.
And she resigned.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
now,
let me ask you, before you came, what I said was, if the city wants to reduce rents or reduce increases, then you should reduce real estate taxes.
Of course.
But they're doing the opposite.
No.
They're increasing real estate taxes.
But John,
and water costs.
You're on, but listen very carefully because you're onto something. Because the housing czar from Mondami has made it perfectly clear she's anti-landlord, anti-capitalist. She wants to seize the private property. So what they've done is they created this sham commission about so-called bad landlords. So what they're going to do, is they're going to use this to give them all kinds of fines, drive them out of business. They can't make their expenses. They will abandon the properties, and the city will take it over. Now, let me ask you a question. Bad landlord? What's a worse landlord than the housing authority?
Senator Borrello said that exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I happen to be a chassid when it comes a Hasidic capitalist, and I don't like having a board. I don't even like the board in the first place, even if it's stacked with better people. I don't like the idea. Let the free market decide. All right, we're going to take a break right now. This is the last day of the Katz and Company takeover of Sid and Friends in the Morning. We're going to make the most of it. We have a lot of really great guests coming up, and we are going to continue to show you why it is not compassionate to have the government so-called freeze rents.
Sid and Friends in the Morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
A lot of news going on again today. We haven't mentioned Venezuela, which was, of course, a huge top story and remains that. Those twin earthquakes on Wednesday. By the way, former pitcher for the Mets was in the worst, basically, place you can possibly be when an earthquake happens. Jose Mejia, he was in an elevator. You really don't want to be in an elevator when there's a massive earthquake. But he miraculously
saved his life.
Yeah, but it turned out okay for him. Relatively so, of course, but right now the death toll is something around 300 a little bit, but there are still thousands missing. There's going to be a lot of humanitarian aid requests and discussions about what's going on in Venezuela. And you know what? Venezuela's lucky that the United States has its hands around it right now, because it's going to make it a lot easier.
The United States has its hands around any disaster around the world.
But even before this disaster, the fact that we extradited Maduro, the illegal dictator of Venezuela, I can't say that enough. I can't stand when the mainstream media calls him the president like he was elected by the Electoral College or something. He was never.
Well, the socialists call him the president.
Yeah.
Venezuelans call him the dictator.
Yeah, why don't we just call him El Jefe or the Patron or whatever you want to call him? But he was not a real legitimate leader. And so the United States is a little bit more involved in Venezuela than it would have been a couple of months ago. And I think that this is something that could end up saving lives. The fact that we're there now, there's not as many hoops to jump through to get the aid to get there. And America's allies, a number of countries that are very good at this kind of stuff, setting up field hospitals, will have an easier time getting there. So there is a blessing, a blessing involved with
the Venezuelan community here in New York, predominantly in Astoria, Long Island City, that general area. We are here at WABC. Whatever you guys need, just reach out and we will support whatever efforts you have.
Yeah, and make it clear, come on Fernando's show, No Excuses at 6 p.m., come on my programs, at any program here, and let us know what is needed. Because a lot of people, we hear about it, what do I send money? Do I send supplies?
Food, yeah.
Do I send my, do I tell my friends who do these kinds of relief work? It's important. And again, just as we were saying yesterday, it was so interesting, John, yesterday that we were hearing from so many people, many of our guests who were talking about, Bill O'Reilly talked about this, how if you go in the public school system today, and even a lot of the private schools, they teach our children about how terrible America is, how horrible a country this is. And at the same time, no one denies that we're the most charitable country in the world. No one denies that we motivate and mobilize quicker than anybody else. And that is why this story is doubly important, because the United States people are so charitable and we are so willing to help and we are able to do it. And most importantly, Fernando, we have the means with which to make that happen. It's not just a wish upon a star. We have the Peace Corps. We have these mobile hospitals that can be set up. We use the military for humanitarian aid all the time. The National Guard mostly does humanitarian aid. For those of you who think they're just there to back us up in Iraq or whatever, that's not true. So it's at the same day that we're hearing about how much America is hated, and it produces candidates like this Daria Chevalier who hate America and want to wipe their hands on an American flag like a napkin, we are reminded that this is a great country, a charitable country.
You know what? She's still not a shoo-in. She's a shoo-in for the Democratic Socialist Party.
Got that.
Yeah, but we have a candidate called Yomo Williams, who's a Republican running against her.
Okay.
Does he have a chance, though? I mean, in that county?
If the Republicans get behind him, it's possible that he does.
Well,
Forget
the Republicans. We had a big discussion last night. The Democrats have to get behind him. The common sense Democrats, the black community has to get behind him.
Here's James Carville saying that the Democrats, if Chevalier does win the general election, shouldn't seat her in their caucus. Here's James Carville. Listen to this. Can you hear this?
Okay, come on. Let's get real. And by the way, two of them, I don't think are even Democrats. This Chevalier lady, they should not seat her in the caucus. her views are totally against anything that any Democrat has. We believe in pluralism. She doesn't even believe in interracial dating. I mean, who? I don't think there's a place in the party. By the way, I'm not sure she wants to be a Democrat.
And when you've lost James Carville, you've lost. You've lost everything.
No, I think James Carville has lost it completely. His mind has lost it.
But he's right here.
He said, but you notice the words he uses. He fools the people. I want everybody to notice it. Shouldn't sit in the caucus. Doesn't mean anything.
Right, in the House
John has got it.
But
John has got it. The key, John is absolutely right. The key is you don't let her take her seat in the House of Representatives.
No, but you can't. You don't have the right to do that.
Yeah, actually, you do have the right to do that.
You don't. Come on, give me a break.
The House has the right to not seat somebody
Why?
who's not qualified.
The Senate too.
And the Senate too, yes.
Yeah,
they don't have to seat them.
So what are you going to... listen.
It's a pre-expulsion.
If you take an IQ test with some of these people that got elected, I mean, are you going to convince people not to seat them?
The fact is, I would make the effort not to seat her. And by the way, that story, I don't know if you folks have talked about it yet, but there's a story, I don't know the validity of which, is that there was foreign money went into that campaign coming out of Germans.
I have it right here. I have the soundbite right here. Now, we've been talking about, Judge, to answer your question, we've been talking about foreign money. And when we talk about foreign money getting into our election, which is completely illegal, we've been thinking it's Qatar or Iran or China. Well, it turns out this is a German man, a member of the German government, explaining how they spent a lot of money on New York's elections. Listen to this.
RLS NYC is part of the international network
NYC.
of the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung, RLS. RLS is a Berlin-based foundation associated with Germany's Left Party, which is currently the third strongest party in the national parliament, the Bundestag.
So the third largest party in Germany is funding illegally candidates as Democrat socialists in New York City.
Bottom line, you know what I keep saying? America is under attack, and we have to wake up.
Yeah.
We're going to wake up.
And it's attacking not just with bombs or with drugs, but also with money.
Let's find out what you knew.
The FBI needs a separate division just to go after these people and say enough is enough because we're under attack.
John's right. And let's find out how this money moved. Did she know about it? Did her campaign people know about it?
Who's going to investigate?
Well, we shut down.
The FBI can investigate it, and the House can investigate it.
Somebody very close to me investigated Act Blue. Mm-hmm. Okay? Act Blue was the big thing. Hundreds of millions of dollars came in to get Congress people elected, Democratic Congress people. You take a person that never ran for anything, and she got $35 million from Act Blue.
Never had a job.
Who's in jail?
Okay?
Yeah.
Nobody's in jail.
Okay.
Okay? But the FBI needs a separate division, and we have to... America, this is a different kind of war that's being waged on America, and the people have to realize it. And Senator Borrello, I was at your event last night where you had the Republican state chair people, and tell people what I said last night. You tell them.
Well, first of all, you really lit up the room. Thank you for being there. But you ended with that we cannot demonize all the Democrats. But you did say, and I think this is an important point, is people came to this country like our ancestors, your grandfathers. They came here to be Americans because they loved America. They came here for opportunity. My ancestors, and this is the story of America. It doesn't. Prior to America, how you were born was determined what your life was going to be. Okay, not in America. It doesn't matter where you were born, whether you have money, whether you have the right last name. You can be a success. Okay, and Mr. Katsimatidis, you're the perfect example of that. But we have an insurgency. That's what this really is. It's an insurgency here in the United States. And the insurgency is those folks that are here because they don't like America. And that's what you're seeing with some of these candidates.
And they're immigrants.
What happened was, and you weren't here the last few days, listen, Bill Clinton was a pro-America, loved America president. After the next president after that, President Obama, next Democratic president.
That's Democrat. Yeah.
That's where it started.
Yes.
That's where it started being anti-American. And we were talking about it the last few days, that 70% of the Democrats, maybe more, I don't know, loved America pre-President Obama. And now what is it down to?
29%.
29%.
And the number was even higher.
Okay.
Who loved America was 80%.
America's under attack. How is it under attack? It's under attack by political means, by what's happening, foreign money going into our political system. Number 2, drugs.
Yes.
They are feeding drugs and killing our kids.
Not for profit, but to kill us.
100,000 Americans died every year in 22, 23, 24, 25. I mean, stop already.
That's like 2 Vietnam Wars every year.
No more than that. Yeah, just
59,000 died in Vietnam.
It's like a 737 going down every day.
Yeah.
Okay? So you got drugs, you got foreign influences, and these paid actors that create scenes, and all the broadcasting companies broadcast it, and America thinks it's their way of life.
This is all making sense to me personally right now.
It's coming
together, and it's coming together here at the Sid Rosenberg show, and it's amazing.
Show?
Earth, Wind, and Fire. Listen, this is coming together. The influx of immigrants.
We'll create a new show like that.
The influx of
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Listen,
and we'll start it in September.
Listen,
Inside joke.
The influx of immigrants, the influx of foreign money, all comes together, and it makes sense, John. These illegal immigrants that came during Obama and Biden and all of that, plus all that foreign money coming in now, they're putting it to use with the people that came into the country.
Okay, now listen. All these schmucky Democrats that were attacking President Trump for shooting down the Venezuelan boats that were bringing drugs to America. Give me a break.
That's ridiculous.
Give me a break.
It's ridiculous.
Finally
they got that boat has enough fentanyl or drugs to kill 10,000 kids.
Oh, more than that.
And we shoot it down, and the Democrats say, "Oh, let's put Trump in jail."
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break.
And guess where their funding is coming from? Some of these drug cartels. Again, like it's almost nothing is said in D.C.
China. Gangs were funding the Mexican gangs to bring the fentanyl in, and some of the historians say the Chinese were getting even for the opium
wars.
The opium wars. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, by the way, we joke around in here. You think that Jews play the victim card a lot, or blacks, but the Chinese government plays the victim card better than anybody. They believe everyone has victimized them for hundreds of years, and thus they have no moral obligations to anyone. And that includes Japan, Russia, the United States, Britain, France. And John's exactly right. This isn't like the Miami Vice drug dealer of the 80s. The Chinese supplying this, they're not looking to make money off of this. They're looking to kill us.
Exactly right.
That's it.
Yeah. Now, the Mexican cartels are in the money business.
Yeah.
The Chinese are in the killing us
business. The Chinese are in the killing us business. And, it's all kidding aside. This isn't anything new. Our founding fathers, but even after that, understood with the creation of some of our federal departments exactly the different ways that a country can be attacked. It's not just with bombs and with guns. The Secret Service used to be very much involved in combating counterfeiting, because if you put counterfeit currency into an economy, you destroy that economy. I thought one of the worst decisions, speaking of George W. Bush, worst decisions was putting the Secret Service under the auspices of the Homeland Security Department. That was a terrible thing. The Treasury Department is not perfect, but compared to the other agencies in D.C., it's pretty darn good. And I wanted the Secret Service to remain part of Treasury. That's another discussion.
I still don't understand. I mean, I want every American out there to know this IRS executive director. What was her name?
Her name was Lois Lerner under Obama. Lois Lerner.
Lois Lerner. Tell the people what she did.
But she
never went to jail, and she never spent. And she never got fined, and except.
I'll tell you, I was running Larry Kudlow's show at CNBC when this scandal broke. Lois Lerner was deliberately going after right-wing organizations that were legitimately not-for-profit and scrutinizing them, taking away their not-for-profit, their tax status, et cetera, et cetera. And it was proven beyond a shadow of doubt that she was doing this for political reasons. And we thought at the Kudlow show this was going to be a big ratings grabber. We thought everyone was going to pay attention. Well, they didn't. She got away with it. She was never prosecuted. She's fine and dandy now. And she was just the tip of the iceberg, John. There were a lot of other people doing this.
You know what was worse about what happened with Lois Lerner? She was before the Congressional Committee. She read a statement saying how wonderful she was and denying everything. Then when they started to ask her questions, she took the Fifth Amendment. Now, let me give you some basic Fifth Amendment law. As soon as you give up any information, you say anything, you've waived the privilege. And they never went after her for contempt of the Congress, and they should have.
Nobody on this panel takes the Fifth, including Fernando Mateo. We're going to hear from him when we come back after this break.
Yeah, I'm ready to explode.
He will never take the Fifth.
We should skip the commercial breaks here.
This is
Sid on Sports.
Oh my goodness! Sponsored by Peerless Boilers on 77 WABC.
Justin Ellick here with your sports update, sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com to find a deal under you. Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers. Out in Boston, the Yankees lost 6-3 in the opener of a 4-game series against the rival Red Sox. Up next for them, Will Warren will get the start in tonight's Game 2 of this 4-game set against the Sox. First pitch from Boston scheduled for 7:10 p.m. In Queens, Mets lost 4-3 in 10 innings to the Cubs, suffering a 4-game series sweep and dropping the finale. Up next for the Mets, rookie righty Zach Thornton will be recalled from AAA tonight to face the Phillies in the opener of a 3-game weekend series. First pitch from Citi Field is scheduled for 7:10 p.m. Let's check in on the World Cup as well. Final from Los Angeles last night saw the U.S. fall in the final seconds to Turkey 3-2. Fielded a team of reserves because the group's larger fate was already determined after the U.S. beat Paraguay and Australia in its previous 2 games. Americans knew before kickoff that whatever happened, it would face Bosnia Herzegovina in the round of 32 come next Wednesday from Santa Clara, California. That is your sports, sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com to find a deal under you. Peerless Boilers, the world's best built boilers. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All joking aside, really, we have a lot of listeners because the Sid and Friends show in Israel is around lunchtime, and it's a good time to sit down. Israelis still sit down and read a paper, listen to the radio. They actually do that in that country. They don't eat at their desk so much. It's not a thing. And Sid met a lot of our listeners there, so he wasn't exactly taking time off from WABC. But I'm here with John Catsimatidis, our owner-operator, Fernando Mateo, Judge Richard Weinberg, and our special guest today, State Senator George Burrow, is also a spokesman for the Republican Party. And State Senator, we were just talking in the break. James Carville might say, it's just three districts. I mean, come on. But the fact is, these primary results are creating more traction for Hakeem Jeffries and Senator Schumer to be replaced as Democrat leaders in the House and Senate, respectively. I don't think that that's too far-fetched. People might look at those guys and say they're the old guard.
Well, there's no doubt about it. First of all, Schumer has had a target on his back for a long time. AOC obviously wants that job. Of course, she thinks she can be president. She's not qualified to run anything. But that being said, look, the Democrat Party, on top of moving far to the left and on top of becoming, socialist, is also huge in identity politics. It's about the color of your skin. It's about what your religion is. It's about your gender or your gender fluidity, which isn't a thing. This is what the Democrat Party has become about. So, Chuck Schumer, you're an old straight white guy. You're a dinosaur in the party. You are an endangered species, and now this is the stuff he supported. Okay. He has been all behind this woke agenda, this DEI. He's pushed all of that, and now he's going to become a victim of it.
Creating a monster net. But what about Hakeem Jeffries? He's a relatively young African-American man. Why is he, Fernando, why is he under the gun?
Hakeem Jeffries is like a follower, really. He may be one day the Speaker of the House, which, I really don't. I hope it doesn't happen.
God forbid. God forbid. You got to learn that term.
So why should he be? Right. So listen, my take on Hakeem Jeffries is he's very insecure. He's lost a huge chunk of his power here in New York City. It seems like if Zoran Mandami is really the leader of the Democratic Party and the Democratic Socialist Party here in New York. And it's time for Jeffries and Schumer to really open up for someone new to come in.
Well, as a Republican, or mostly, I'm not really a Republican operative. I'm certainly not an elected official. But as a conservative, I would like for the American people to see who the Democrats really are. And the Democrats are not Chuck. Listen, Chuck Schumer is one of my least favorite people in Congress. He sat next to me at my high school graduation because I was That was his
Did
district.
he elbow you?
No, but back then Chuck Schumer had the loudest voice, by the way, in D.C. The man never needed a microphone. It's not as loud anymore, thank God. But I really dislike him, his policies. I don't know him personally, so I'm not going to say anything personal about it.
All you need to know about Chuck Schumer is that the Obama deal that he cut with Iran, which sold out America, Western civilization, our allies in the Middle East, he let it happen.
Right.
He could have stopped it. And the legislative process business, the Senate knows, is something called being let off the hook. So when you have enough votes to get something through, so they let you vote the other way, so you can go back to your constituents and say, look at me, I vote against it.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, he was the leader of the Democrats. He could have said, no, Mr. President, this is a bad deal. It's bad for America. It's bad for Western civilization. But Schumer went into the tank, let Obama cut that deal with Kerry, the worst deal, and President Trump has to unravel that worst deal that threatens Western civilization.
And, Judge, there were some Democrats, including my congresswoman at the time, Kathleen Rice, who were courageous enough to say that. She basically lost her job because of it. She stood up to Obama on the Iran deal. She stood up to Pelosi on getting new blood in to the Democrat Party. She's not in politics anymore. So Schumer can't say, no Democrat did
and
this.
nobody even knows her name anymore. I've forgotten her name completely until you just
refresh our
mentioned it.
recollection.
Yeah. She was a young, good-looking,
that's why,
moderate Democrat.
That's why people say, I want to run for Congress to make a difference. The leadership makes the decisions. And people have to realize that. The leadership makes the decisions, and everybody goes out along for the ride. Otherwise, what happened to Kathleen Rice happens to them.
You get excommunicated from. You don't get.
We
You don't get
had
the
to come up
assignments.
with a gong. Reality check.
And there's no such thing as a non-religious person. The most religious people I meet every day are far left Democrats who don't want to have a conversation, who don't want. I mean, I had much easier time growing up in the South among evangelical Christians than I do talking to some environmental radicals or some of these anti-Israel radicals who are absolutely like religion. I've seen cults before.
They're true believers.
I'm a member of the oldest remaining cult in the world. I gave it the office. I know a cult. I know a member of a cult when I see one, and these people are like absolutely crazy. They don't do business, do they, Fernando?
Listen, Jake, when we had hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants landing in New York City, Chuck Schumer was the head of the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, the majority leader.
The majority. What did he do to help the Adams administration? Right? What did he do to bring funding to New York? What did he do to help New York City? No one's asked that question.
It was worse than that, Fernando. He covered up for the Biden administration.
Okay, so if he covered up, you know what? He doesn't belong in New York City.
And State Senator George Borrello, he's still supposed to be the senator of New York State. Did he do anything for your districts, for your part of the state?
Well, no. When it comes to these kind of things, also, you start talking about the migrant crisis. You literally had people that were flown here on private jets by the Biden administration, and then they go after the governor of Texas for putting some people on a bus. But that accounted for I think the number was 30 or 40% of the total. Most of those folks were brought here by the Biden administration. They chose to come here,
purposely.
Yeah. So, and where was Chuck Schumer to stand at the entrance of the state and say stop?
You're hurting our city.
No, they did the opposite.
Yeah.
They stood at the bus.
Say, come on in.
Well,
come on in. Come on in.
They were giving them coffee and donuts.
And here's an extra coffee.
And here's
an
your
extra
cell
donut.
phone. And here's your cell phone.
And here's your cell phone. And here's a credit card.
And here's a $400 room of hotel where you're going to stay.
I mean, and let's not forget the NGOs. Okay, all these government-funded organizations that came in here and created a lot of chaos. They told these folks, look, if they're not giving you culturally appropriate food, you throw it back in their face.
Unbelievable.
I mean, we wasted, I can't tell you how many millions of pounds of food that went to waste here in New York State.
They wouldn't eat it.
Yes.
If you walk by the Roosevelt Hotel, just a few blocks from the studio, and you saw what was going on there, they made it a third world slum.
It was a disaster.
Also, the Lucerne Hotel on the Upper West Side. Some of these hotels, and some of the hotel owners were okay with it because with the COVID, the COVID lockdowns, they wanted to make some of their money back. I mean, they twisted the knife there in a way. All right, we got to take a break. We got a lot coming up in the next half hour. We're going to hear from KT McFarland. We'll also hear from Ari Fleischer, the former White House spokesperson.
And Fernando Mateo.
And Fernando Mateo is going to remind us that he has a show at 6 p.m. on Sunday.
What's the name of that show?
No excuses.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
For disclosure purposes, he's been my chief of staff for the last 10 years. And George, we've been talking about the FBI between the 6 o'clock hour and the 7 o'clock hour. And we said that America is under attack. We have drugs coming in from all over the place. One form of attack, another form of attack, politics-wise, money, foreign money possibly coming in, affecting our elections. But we're under attack in so many different ways than we were 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And you're with the FBI. You run the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation. Besides, you talk to all law enforcement. Give us your evaluation.
John, you can't be more right. And it's been going on for years, this whole foreign influence of America. It goes on at a number of different levels. You know, you have the campaigns. You know, they've been influencing campaigns with money, not to say influence with voting, but money. And it's an American problem on both sides. You know, and the problem is, and I'm going to be real frank here, the politicians like the money. They need the money. The way campaigns are run, money is essential to getting elected, and we see it here. And they don't, they're not really keen on attacking the money. I'm telling you right now, because I've experienced this personally. And it has to be done. We have to. They're attacking us on many levels. Economically, they're attacking us. You know, New York City is a perfect example. The reason the prices are so high in New York City is because foreign money. I'll give you an example. I have a son who's looking to change apartments in Manhattan. I was at an open house yesterday. I was the only English-speaking person looking at that apartment. And that apartment, as of this morning, has gone up almost $1,000 in rent in a bidding war on rents. And it's foreigners that are pushing it up because they come here with a lot of money. All the rich foreigners that come in here. But that's good for our economy, so you can't fight that. But when it comes to elections, I'm telling you, they are influencing, and they're influencing both sides. They want us to kill each other, and they're succeeding. The hate is running rampant right now, and they successfully pitted American against American.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah, and we got to all wake up soon because, right now everything's Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. No, we're Americans. Nobody's voting American first. Everybody's voting party first because they're trying to keep that power. And I don't know when we wake up, but if we don't wake up soon, I'm telling you, we're going to lose our country. And what you guys are saying is true. We're gonna lose our country, and they're laughing at us.
George Venizelos, I wonder if you can help me dig a little bit deeper into this when you talked about because you mentioned the candidates needing the money because the way campaigns are expensive. But did you ever see evidence of what I also think is going on here, which is, a candidate gets all this money in campaign funds, but the way that they can turn that into personal funds is they hire friends and relatives as their campaign staff. There was a Republican, Tom DeLay, who got nailed for this. He put his wife and his daughter as his campaign chairman, and paid them ridiculous salaries. So this isn't just about, I have an expensive campaign and I want to run an election. It's also about lining their pockets personally. Correct?
100%. And that's happening a lot. And again, we gotta have gain the stomach to go against this. We have to, and like everybody's been saying it all week here. Until somebody goes to jail, you're not going to stop it.
George, you've been in law enforcement for over 30 years. Retired plus after retirement. Why doesn't anybody go to jail? I don't understand it.
John, that is something has baffled me for years, and a lot of it is, I don't want to make excuses, but a lot of it has to do with the prosecution. You can investigate all you want. If they're not going to prosecute it, then you're wasting your time. We got to get an appetite. Like, for example, what's going on now with the Medicaid fraud, the healthcare fraud. That's been going on for years. Now they finally have put a really good fusion team together to go after that, and we're getting a lot of results. They need to do the same for the foreign influence of our country.
Well, I want to say, Judge Richard Weinberg, you've been in law enforcement for 100 years, too. I mean, have you seen
100 years?
But you look great.
I'm killing people, and John's making them older. That's what's going on here on this program.
I went from yesterday 78 to 100.
Judge.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen a significant decrease of fraud situations going to jail?
When my first job out of law school, I was a law clerk to a federal judge, and I had an official corruption unit. And you go into the office, and you see the pictures of all the politicians. Literally, George and John, they had these people's pictures there, and they were always looking at them to see if there's a way of making a case. And as George points out, unless the U.S. attorneys or the state AGs or the DAs think they have a slam dunk case, they're not going to go for it because they're worried about their win-loss record, and they don't want to expend resources unless they know they can win.
It's like the FBI the other day said to me when they have that case, George, with the former chief of staff to Mayor Eric Adams, is unless we think we have a 95% chance of convicting, we don't take the case to.
And that's something that's the federal system doesn't like to take chances, especially in the corruption arena, because if you don't win, it works against you. Then it's like, oh, they're going after them because it's a politics. Oh, they're going, you know what? Being a politician has become big business. Do a net worth of a person before they go in, especially in this city here with some of these people. And then look at them, 10, 20 years later, the money they're making, and they're not making on their salaries.
Well, look at the leaders in Congress, in the House, the Senate. Look at the presidents.
Yeah.
Look at the presidents. How do these people walk out of the presidency multi-million dollars?
Except Trump, who actually, after his first term, had lost money.
Right. Lost money. But the fact of the matter is, this became a cash cow.
Listen, politics is the most corrupt business out there.
Harry Truman took the train back after he became.
No, he
wasn't president anymore.
Actually drove back. He actually drove
back. He drove the train back.
I wasn't born.
The David McCullough book talks also about how even after he was president, he turned down lucrative offers.
That's
Toyota
correct.
offered Truman at the time, this is like 1960, millions of dollars to endorse Toyota, and he wouldn't do it.
And he wouldn't even write
It
a
was
book.
our last honest
He wouldn't
price.
even write a book to make money.
That's right.
You know
Truman
how a lot
wouldn't
of them
even
do
write
it?
a book to.
They form these foundations.
Yeah.
Right?
Foundations
support your retirement life.
Yeah, read all of David McCullough's books, by the way. The Truman book, a very good one. Look, we also have tax laws. When Richard Nixon was vice president and lost the presidency in 1960, the election in 1960, he donated his vice presidential papers, which in my opinion are the public's property. He's doing it in his office. He donated them to the National Archives and wrote off in $1960 $500,000. He basically never paid personal taxes almost ever again because of that, because that was his deduction carried over year. I mean, there are so many scams, Fernando. If we're electing, believe me, the dirty people will find dirty ways.
Listen, there's a lot of very honest elected officials. We have here,
sitting right here,
Senator.
And by the way, all of the silverware has been counted. Senator Barella, you're in the clear. You're in the clear. Nothing's missing.
So, listen, I ran for mayor of New York City, and I had to raise money. And to be quite honest with you, I was very careful about how I accepted money and who I accepted it from. Why? Because I have a lot more to lose. Personally, I'm a very wealthy person. Not as wealthy as John, but I'm wealthy, and I've worked very hard my entire life, right? I don't have a high school. I never graduated high school because I was working to help support my family. But a lot of the poor politicians, like Espaillat, to name a few, and these people that run in these poor neighborhoods, they need money. And they're going to take money from whoever gives it to them. And if they don't get caught, they got away with it. And most of them get away with it. But, the key to success when you're running for office is cash. It's money. They take cash. They take bonds. They take food stamps. They'll take whatever you give them.
You have an even worse system in New York City, and now you have in New York State the so-called campaign finance laws, which supposed to make the system more honest.
Public campaign finance.
Yeah, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. In New York City, it's 8-1. So you encourage people who have no chance at all and have no message and no intention to serve the people running, getting 8-1 money, which is exactly why after Curtis Slewa made all that money, all that deal, having all his friends and family on the payroll, when he ran for mayor, when he should have gotten out of the race to stop Mondami, I've announced that I'm running for mayor next time out.
Yeah, because
I get some of that free money.
Keeps the money flowing.
Speaking about Curtis, rest in peace, Curtis. Sid and company have you underground, my friend. And with this show this week, you're done.
Last word to State Senator George Borrello, who has not taken any of our money in the last few minutes, at least.
Yes, exactly.
And he paid for the cup of coffee I gave him.
Oh, he did? Right, okay.
That's all money on the counter.
Campaign contribution. Last word to you.
Well, look, there is no doubt that money influences things in politics. It has to. But the system is set up that way, including the public campaign finance system, okay? There are a lot of people that profit at the expense of the taxpayers and the people, because whether the person wins or loses, they make profit. This was designed for consultants to profit. Yes. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, exactly. Like lobbyists. What's a lobbyist?
Well,
it's legal bribery.
No, that's what I say.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Former Congressman Peter King, former chairman of the Homeland Security Department, and Congressman King, we've got to ask you to continue our discussion here that we've been having all morning about the national security issue that foreign money, whether it's in campaign funds.
Well, first of all, the title of the conversation is America is under attack.
Yep.
Right. America under attack, not just from Iran or from terrorists and bombs, but from money, from fentanyl, and from voting influence. All of this is illegal. What are your takes on all this? Because we think this is just as dangerous as bombs and guns.
No, there's no doubt there is a threat from foreign money. All I would say, though, is that there also is a threat from within, that even without the foreign money, Mondami and that crowd would still be powerful. But the foreign money adds to it and gives them power they wouldn't have otherwise. It's something that has to be analyzed much more carefully, should be prosecuted, I believe, and they're getting away with it for a long time. The only thing I would say is let's not just focus on that, because the fact is, whether there's any money or not, there is a real threat, political threat in this country for people who support Mondami, whether or not there's money. The money adds to it, that puts them over the top. So to me, we have to fight this on many fronts.
Peter King, but we also learned, and I played the sound of a member of the German government admitting and boasting that they have been using German money, government money, to recruit socialist candidates. From some foundation.
A foundation in Germany.
Yep.
Influencing. I can't believe this stuff is happening.
Recruiting candidates.
And nobody goes to jail.
Well, it should. I mean, any type of use of foreign money is illegal. It's almost entirely illegal. It should be investigated and prosecuted. And it's been going on for years, but it's really increased the last several years. I mean, Russia has been trying to influence our elections for 50 years. But the fact is, within the last, I'd say, 10 years, all that big money, blue money, all of that, so much of that is infiltrated with foreign funds. And it's there. There's no doubt about it. So it has to be, again, I think, investigated much more carefully than it has been.
Hey, Peter, it's George.
Hey, George, how you doing?
Good. Until you make an example, you're not going to stop it. You have to.
True.
You have to deter what's going on, and I think you were there. You were under pressures of raising funds, and I think for a lot of these politicians, they need the money. And it's sad how, like John says, we're under attack in many ways. But this is the biggest area that we're under attack. Influence.
People have gone to jail. They went to jail under Eric Adams' administration. You had this guy, Erdogan Arkin. Okay, they claimed that he funneled money from Turkish government to the Adams campaign, right?
Yeah.
So during the Biden administration, they probably speeded up the process of incarcerating people. But, we need to speed it up. As John said, people need to go to jail. Politicians are there to represent us, not to rob us, not to, take foreign money and compete with their competitors.
Peter, it's
George, I think you'll agree with us. Many times that money, you don't know it's foreign money.
This is Fernando. This is Fernando, Peter.
Well, no, let him finish.
Yes.
Let him finish, okay? Please, let's not step over each other. Go ahead, Peter.
What I was going to say is that the danger is often when that money is received, the fantasy candidate, does not even realize it's foreign money. It's much more clever than that. I'm saying right here in New York, I think George, you'll agree with me on this. It's a real threat to Chinese money.
Yeah.
See these indictments coming down, and that's a reality. And these are people very respected, looking very respectful in the community, and they contribute to charities and foundations. Meanwhile, they're working their way in, and the money has a real political influence. So China is, I think, we focus on Russia, and we should, but also China is a real threat. You people are Captain Hope staff. Right now, Frank Carroll, it's so close to that case, I don't know. But again, you're talking about foreign money, Chinese money. And so it comes in many shapes and forms, and it really has to be investigated.
No, they're really smart in how they cover it up. There's no doubt about that. Very smart. And even the Act Blue, that was, think about it, that was a ingenious way of doing it. But that's why we have to, once we get a handle on some of this stuff, we got to break it open.
For everybody that wants to know when we raised the price, when President Biden's administration raised the price of oil to $100 a barrel, it made the foreigners wealthy beyond. And what they did is to reward back the Democratic Party, they fed it back through Act Blue.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. They made hundreds. They donated hundreds of millions, but they made hundreds of billions.
100%.
So it's like giving a commission. Right. Thank you for making us billions of dollars. Here's a couple of $100 million. And the Democratic Party through Act Blue found a system to bring it in and not report it.
Right. And that's where I think Soros does it, a lot of it for gain, for financial gain.
Yeah, he has no ideology. Yeah. He's not a leftist. Don't call him a leftist.
He
just wants
money.
to. Yeah, he wants.
There's no leftist or rightist. He's about money.
Yeah, that's it.
He's trying to figure out the best way to make money.
It's a cheap investment for him. I mean, the amount of money that he originally spent on these district attorney elections, which no one had ever nationally sponsored. All these local DA elections
to create disorder.
Right. 100%. Because he knew, listen, this guy has a running bet, George, and everyone else, against the U.S. dollar. That's George Soros' bet. And it's a bad bet, by the way. So we'll have the last laugh.
Well, President Trump made it a bad bet.
That's right. But Peter King, he's not a leftist, or he's not. He's trying to undermine the country, correct?
Yeah. Oh, he definitely wants to undermine our way of life, our structure. And that includes the economy. And yes, I mean, you're right. There's no doubt he's not a good guy. And he also is coming out of all different directions. I do think he has a political ideology, but most of all, his main ideology is to bring down the country.
Peter King, America also under attack. We talked about drugs. We talked about fentanyl. And how there is a difference between the drug trafficking of today and the drug trafficking of the Miami Vice 1980s. Sure, the Mexican gangs that are at the final end of that chain are looking to make money, but the Chinese who created this fentanyl and flooded it into those gangs, they're also not about, they're the opposite of Soros. They're not about money. They're about killing our children. John was saying it's like a 737 crashing every day. I said it's like a Vietnam War every other month in the amount of people who are being killed. You must have seen some of this while you were still in Congress.
China is coming at us from all directions.
Yeah.
Drug trade, the fentanyl, all of that is a major part of it. So is their cyber attacks on us. So is the fact that they're expanding their business interests all over the world, whether South America, North Africa, Europe. China is coming at us from all directions. That's why President Trump keeps saying that President Xi is his friend. I wouldn't trust him charging his throne. That is the ultimate danger China is. They're moving everywhere. Their military is expanding dramatically. And you're right, fentanyl and drugs are a key component, but they are, it's like an octopus coming at you from every different direction.
Fernando Mateo, I want to ask you to join the conversation with a question I have for you, but also for how do people on the street, the workers in the cities, suffer from this? How are they affected by
taxi
it?
cab drivers.
They're when you come into the neighborhoods where bodegas and cab drivers drop people, and where people live, they're affected because it's their community consuming the fentanyl. It's their community consuming the drugs. It's their communities that are involved in all this crime and all these shootings and all these murders. This doesn't happen in wealthy neighborhoods. Of course, you're going to get a wealthy kid once in a while that becomes a junkie. But most of this is happening in the housing projects in NYCHA, okay? In the Bronx, in Brooklyn, and Queens, and all over the areas where our community lives. So we're the ones deeply affected by this, okay? And we are the ones that need to start fighting back by putting the right people in office. Okay?
Well, that's
and
it.
we're not doing that.
They're also affected by it's their politicians who are being funded by this foreign money and being influenced. That's right.
They are being funded, but understand something. The reason why everyone believes that the outer boroughs are all Democratic, strongholds, they are wrong. The reason why they are thought to be Democratic strongholds is because every elected official is a Democrat. Your assemblyman, your senator, your councilman, your congressman. So you're surrounded by Democrats. But the truth of the matter is that these business people are not Democrats. They're Republicans. We just haven't gone after them. We haven't done anything to stop all this nonsense, okay? So the drugs are affecting the black community and the Hispanic community more than any community out there.
Peter King, last word to you. What's your prognosis? I mean, not just your prognosis, but what's your idea how we can fix this? Prescription.
We need all-out effort. As I said, we have to fight them on all fronts. Obviously, drug use is the main one. Foreign money is another one. Also, Chinese influence and other governments try to influence our government, our businesses, and also foreign policy. We have to stay strong. All of this is combined, but you're right, defensive. If I can say one thing, I'm on my way to a funeral of a good friend, Charlie Norton. Nobody should feel sorry for him. He led a great life. He was always mad at me, but never mentioning his name on radio. So, Charlie, if you're listening, I'm on the way to your funeral now. I'm on WABC, and I'm going down to Breezy Point. We'll have a drink for you afterwards.
Breezy Point. Oh, the Rockaways. Very, very soft spot in my heart. Fernando, I lived there too. Not in Breezy Point. I lived in the regular Far Rockaway, but okay.
Peter, it's always an honor having you here. You bring an institution of knowledge.
Thank you so much, Peter, and have a great weekend and enjoy celebrating the life of your friend.
Have a great weekend, Peter.
Okay.
Take care, Peter. Peter, you're the best.
KT McFarland will join us on the other side.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The great KT McFarland, national security expert, former Trump administration official. And KT, we've been talking.
And one great lady.
And one great lady.
Smart.
Always good for radio and TV, by the way. And KT, this is Jake Novak. Listen, we've been talking all morning. Our theme of the morning, America under attack. It isn't just bombs and terrorists and things like that. It's also fentanyl. It's campaign finance, law breaking. I mean, how much of this is even on the radar of defense people and national security folks?
Well, everybody should swim in their own lane. I mean, the Defense Department is worried about the military threats to the United States, the intelligence community, intelligence threats, homeland security, homeland threats, but they all have one theme in common, right, which is to destroy the United States, either from within or from without, financially, economically, militarily, socially, politically. And I think that's one of the greatest things that President Trump is doing, and doing it in our 250th year. We're proud again. Make America clean, make America beautiful, make America proud, wave the flag. Don't be ashamed. We've been sort of coddled in or sort of cowed into thinking there's something wrong with America, and America is in decline. And America is in decline because we deserve to be in decline. That's the Obama mindset. We're a fading nation, but that's because we deserve to be, because we're fundamentally evil, whatever the reasoning they have. But it's great to see someone who is unapologetically beating his chest for America.
KT, I'm going to go in with you. Let's copyright and trademark this slogan. Pride is the first line of defense. What do you think?
Absolutely, pride is the first line. And not false pride, justified pride of all the things that the United States has done, all the things that the United States is currently doing, and all the things that the United States is capable of doing, not only for ourselves, for our people, but for the world. I mean, just think about the conversation we're not having right now. We're not talking about Hamas. We're not talking about the Palestinian wars. we're not talking about something that has been foremost on everybody's foreign policy mind for decades. Hamas has been tamed. The Palestinian areas, Gaza, that's being rebuilt. And it's being rebuilt because President Trump forged in his first term an alliance, an economic alliance, a trade alliance between Israel and the Gulf Arab states and the United States. And the result of that was prosperity for those nations. And then when it came down to Gaza, another fight in Gaza, yet another October 7th, what happened? Those same countries that were in the Abraham Accords that President Trump created in the first term, they then have risen to the occasion in a security relationship, and they've also sidelined Hamas. So it's just one thing after another. The fact that we're not talking about the border anymore. The border was an open sore, and yet that's been solved. I think that in a year from now, we're not going to be talking about Iran. We'll be talking about something else for sure, but I think the Iran war will be solved. We're not going to be talking about the Strait. We're probably not going to be talking about oil because it'll be so cheap it won't even be an issue.
Katie, this is Fernando Mateo. Thank you for being on with us. I want you to know that as an immigrant to the United States and as a U.S. citizen of the United States, I am very proud to be here. And I think that most immigrants that are here, that came here legally, that came here looking for that American dream, still hold the flag very high. I think that it's foreign nations, socialist nations that want to infiltrate the U.S., that want to downplay our power, the wellness of the United States. Yes, President Trump has made America great again, but guess what? America has always been the nation that every country envies and every immigrant wants to be in. So, we carry it with a lot of pride.
Well, as you should. The Iron Curtain, the wall between the East and West in Europe during the Cold War, that was built to keep people in, not to keep people out. And the walls that we're building are because people want to come in illegally, and it's the one direction everybody wants to come to is to rush to America. I once talked to someone in the Middle East, who's involved in Afghanistan and some bad guys in Afghanistan, and he said, something? If the United States declared Afghanistan the 51st state, we'd all be thrilled. And nobody can quite figure out why is America so exceptional. I think what happens is that, as you said, you're an immigrant. You came to this country probably with nothing, and you've made yourself a great success. We in America is where you come to reinvent yourself, or even if you're already here and you don't like your lot in life, you reinvent yourself. But the difference is that America as a nation, we reinvent ourselves as a nation, where we overthrow the ruling class of the day. We do it at the electoral. We do it at the ballot box, and we put in new leaders, new policies, and we then become a better country. I mean, if you think of the Industrial Revolution, the political changes that happened then, we threw out the old ruling establishment, elected new leaders who then took us to another dimension. If you look at the Reagan Revolution, well, the country was gotten moribund and the economy was bad and the foreign policy was bad. We got rid of Jimmy Carter and the old guys, put in new people, new system, thriving again. And we're the only country that reinvents itself as a nation. Every other country it rises, it shines, it has its moment in the sun. The Roman Empire, the British Empire, all the empires of the world, and yet they then finally go downhill and they crash, and you never hear from them again. Who talks about the Portuguese empires today? Nobody. The American empire, you rise, shine, wobble a little, reinvent ourselves, and then rise again even higher.
Katie, it's Richard Weinberg. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, yesterday, the Supreme Court issued a decision eliminating temporary protective status to immigrants from Haiti and Syria because they were here for years and years and years, and it was a violation by the Biden administration of the protective status rules, and the Supreme Court saw through it. Now, Governor Hochul of New York has just announced that because of this Supreme Court decision, this will cripple New York State's healthcare system. Does this make any sense to you at all?
No. You would think just the opposite, right? I mean, you would think the people who came in for, quote, temporary safety and then stayed forever have not been people who have necessarily contributed to the economy and to the Commonwealth. They're people who have been taking from the public health system. And now if they're no longer protected, they have to go home, you would think, if anything, it would be a savings.
And could you explain to our listeners what this temporary system was all about and why the Supreme Court was correct in its decision?
Okay, so it was, I forget which administration it was put in, Carter, somewhere, by a Democrat administration saying we'll give temporary assistance to people who were fleeing oppression in their countries. Not meant to be permanent, not meant to be citizenship, not meant to be a forever thing. It was like a safe haven that we were offering, and it was particularly countries, Haiti was the one country particularly, and fleeing either oppression or economic hardship. You know, Haiti always gets hit with these massive natural disasters. They could come to the United States, no questions asked, stay here for a while, till they got their act together, till their country got the act together, and then they go home. It was never a backdoor opening for citizenship, and it was also never vetted. So by a stroke of a pen, Barack Obama or Biden or Jimmy Carter before him would let in 100,000, 200,000 temporary residents who could come and take advantage of the safe haven in the United States. But it got abused because those people, once they got here, didn't want to leave. Not only were they receiving social benefits, social welfare benefits, but they thought a better opportunity here. Now, were they following any of the, stand in line, wait your turn, immigrate to the United States rules? No, they jumped the queue, and they tried to stay permanently ahead of the queue. And that's what this decision was about.
KT, we're also talking about something else here, and that is our elections. And look, we have to have secure elections. And I know you said everyone should swim in their own lane, but is it time for a unified special effort starting with the Pentagon, just because there are aspects of this that are military? I mean, we do have military-funded terrorist groups and paramilitary groups like Hezbollah that we know are funding operations in this country. I mean, is it really a swim in your own? Is this just something for the FBI to do, just something for Homeland Security, or is there a Pentagon aspect to some of this?
So many of these things, as you point out, really are now, multidimensional. When I was in the White House, and we would sit in the Situation Room and be talking about a national security issue, but you would often have a representative from the Justice Department or the Treasury Department. You expect to see representatives from the services, from the Pentagon, from the State Department, from the intelligence services, but because everything is sort of interwoven now, they need to be present. They're stakeholders in the issue. If you look at what we've just done with Operation Epic Fury and then Operation Economic Fury, the 1-2 punch the United States was able to do militarily against Iran, Iran's military, against Iran's proxies, but then the 2-punch was as the Operation Epic Fury, the blockade of the Strait, then kind of morphed into Economic Fury. And that's when the Treasury Department took over, where the Treasury Department could have sanctioned assets, could find bank accounts, could find hidden bank accounts, could break into cryptocurrency, money laundering the Iranians would do. And so that's a good example why you swim in your own lane, you have your own areas of responsibility, but then you meet together and in the person of the president. The president's the only one who really is responsible overall for everything. If you're the Secretary of the Treasury, you're responsible for Treasury. You're not responsible for Army training. If you're the Secretary of War, you're not responsible for finding errant bank accounts that are where Iranian money is hidden in offshore accounts.
We're speaking to the great KT McFarland, a great lady, according to John Catsimatidis and everyone else who meets you. KT, I want to talk a little bit more now about military operations, because the folks who have decided to stop paying attention to some of the amazing things that the U.S. and the Israeli armed forces were doing in this war are missing some really amazing moments. This will all be on the Military Channel, Discovery Channel one day in animated documentaries. But, we saw the Israeli Defense Forces surround Hezbollah's kind of version of the Pentagon, the Ali Tahrir Ridge, which is an underground tunnel network with massive technology built for them by the Iranians.
So what happened on that?
So as far as I know, the Israelis were told to stand down, but they haven't stopped surrounding the area. They've just been told not to go in. Is that what your understanding is as well?
Yeah, so this is a complicated thing, that the president has to, like herding cats, right? If we had our druthers, Israel would just go in, destroy Hezbollah, be done with it. One less scourge on the world. But the Gulf Arabs, we also have to keep the Gulf Arabs involved, because the Gulf Arabs, whether it's starting out with the Abraham Accords, which was an economic treaty, then it's morphed into security relationship. Now, hopefully, as we're dealing with the Iran war, the Abraham Accords greatly expand, and all of the countries in the region join them, again, initially as a trading mechanism, as an economic vehicle, but ultimately, potentially, like a NATO military alliance of the entire region that would include the Gulf Arabs, Israel, and the United States. The Gulf Arabs have their own interests. They don't like the proxies any more than anybody else does. But what they're more concerned with is what's the response to them. They live in the neighborhood. So, for example, when President Trump in Operation Epic Fury, we left, let's say it's about 25% of the military capability of Iran intact. The Gulf Arabs said, well, if you go any further, Iran is going to start attacking our desalination plants, our energy infrastructure. Iran is going to, send the drones into the Saudi Arabia refineries, and then it's going to be economic chaos, not only for the world, but most directly for us. So what President Trump, I think, is trying to do is to walk that narrow line, keep the Gulf Arabs alongside with us, keep Israel alongside with us, destroy Iran, diminish Iran, degrade Iran to the point where Iran is no longer has nuclear weapons, but ultimately no longer is a threat to the region and therefore the world.
Katie, this is Fernando Mateo. For those listeners that don't know who Katie McFarland is, she's a former national security advisor during the first Trump administration, and we're honored to have you. My question to you is, we know that every third world country, when they go out to vote for their president or their legislators, they have to carry an ID. They have to ID themselves before they vote. Why is it that we are having certain factions of our government, of our parties, that refuse to do the same here in the United States? We need to know that you are here legally and that you can legally vote for a candidate. We don't understand why, if third world countries are doing it, why can't the United States of America do it?
But it's even worse than that. It's not only you can go up to a polling place on Election Day with no identification and vote. It's all the mail-in ballots. The reason the state of California is so screwed
pure
up.
Fraud. Pure fraud.
It's total fraud, and it's designed to keep certain political parties in power forever. It's designed to not have fair elections. What was the open border all about in the Biden administration? It wasn't a humanitarian concern. It's because they thought, well, we're not winning elections. Republicans are winning elections. But guess what? If we get 20 million new people in America, give them benefits, give them voting rights, we have 20 million Democrat voters. So the whole thing is a fraud. It's especially on the 250th anniversary of the United States. It is so un-American. I always thought, by the way, Fernando, that the best way you could deal with the identification thing on the voting polls, for one day, federalize all voting stations, all polling places. Because get what? To get into a federal building, you've got to show an ID.
Good. Hey, KT, let's talk about the humanitarian aspect of our armed forces. I'm looking at videos, we all are, of this terrible situation in Venezuela. Let's bring it back full circle, because we were talking about having pride, and let pride be the first line of defense in our love for America and protection of America. The U.S. military is going to be playing a role in saving a lot of lives over the next few weeks, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And because the United States military has capabilities nobody else has. I mean, start with things like we have ships that are able to go into an area and they're full hospitals aboard. So you have medical capabilities that we just sail around and we can help. The other thing is the Army Corps of Engineers has the ability to go into a place like Venezuela with the earthquakes and immediately start building bridges and docks and ports and infrastructure that can be put up in an hour, put up in a day to help these people. We have communications capabilities. One of the biggest problems in any natural disaster is Group A can't communicate with Group B. And we have those capabilities, which we can do. When the Venezuela earthquake struck and President Trump's first instinct was, how do I help? What can America do to help you? I thought, whoa, Venezuela, you made some really smart decisions a few months ago when we snatched Maduro, and then the remaining officials of the Venezuelan government said, okay, we're going to work with America now. How can we work together? And so that whole country, which should have been one of the richest countries in the world, and in horrible poverty because of the corruption and mismanagement of the communist socialist Maduro and his thugs. Now the United States is in a position where we're helping Venezuela every single day. Can you imagine if you're an average Venezuelan? You should be so happy and so proud of your new relationship with America.
Exactly. I mean, the timing of this will save so many thousands of lives. The fact that the United States does not have to jump through the hoops that it would have had to have jumped through to provide this aid just a couple of months ago. So again, bringing it full circle, be proud of this country. We are the most charitable and proactively helpful country in the history of the world. Not perfect, but please be proud of this country. We're proud to have you on here. KT McFarland, thank you so much. Have a great weekend and a early happy 205th birthday, America.
Thank you.
Happy 4th of July.
Take care, KT.
It's next weekend already.
That's right.
Oh,
Almost
my
here.
God.
And gasoline will be a lot cheaper by then, too. So that'll be great. And you can go and drive to Chautauqua. All right, we'll be right back.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Joining us right now, we want to have, for all of you here, first of all, this is the Cats and Company Takeover, Day 6. The siege continues of the Sid and Friends in the Morning Show. I'm Jake Novak, along with John Katzmatidis, Fernando Mateo, George Venizelos, and the great Judge Richard Weinberg. We are here holding court and holding on to this territory, but only for one more day. This is our final day before Sid comes back on Monday. But we also had a great interview with Ari Fleischer, the former White House spokesman, also really an astute political mind. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Let's go to Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary. Ari, it's been an interesting day, but it's an interesting Democratic Party now. What do you make of where it's going?
Oh, my gosh, what a mess. I mean, I cannot imagine that this could be happening. You know, my favorite moment, I'm at an airport, so forgive if there's noise in the background, but it reminds me of the incoming congresswoman who now wants to abolish TSA pre-check. Because I guess that's a privilege for some. Is she going to abolish LaGuardia? I mean, why should some rich people be able to fly? Shouldn't everybody have to take a Greyhound bus? Where are we going? She wants to nationalize the airline industry. She wants a government takeover to seize the assets of the airlines. What has happened to New York? And what a huge opportunity for Republicans.
This is really the poster child, that woman. And then you also have Chevalier. That was Valdez who said that. Chevalier said she wants an end to Western civilization. She wants open borders. You got Brad Lander, who, has never seen anybody that he wants to keep, wants to deport in this country, no matter who they are. I'm looking at Ed Cox, who's with us, GOP chairman.
Western civilization?
Yeah, isn't that incredible? That's a direct quote, Ed.
I wish the audience right now could see the chairman's face right now. He can't believe it.
It is, but to Ari's point, it's a perfect ad.
That's all.
It's a perfect ad, Ed.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they just gave the Republicans a gift. I mean, all you have to do is kind of keep playing it over and over again.
That's exactly
Do you remember
it.
when the president came to the Bronx and held a rally? And people were shocked at the number of people, black, Hispanic, low-income, people who came out, working-class people.
Ruben Diaz ran the event.
MAGA has. And this is the opportunity, because the people voting for socialism in New York are, by and large, well-educated, PhD, post-college graduate, college graduate, wealthier than most. That's who's for socialism. Working-class blacks, working-class Hispanics, people who are too busy for the nonsense. These are new Republican voters, and they showed up for Trump. Republicans make big gains with these groups.
You know what's really concerning, Ari Fleischer, too, about the Democratic Socialists, and we've talked about this. You look at what they stand for. 99% of it is anti-Israel, too. I mean, they come right out and say, no business with Israel, no military aid to Israel. Have you ever seen anything like this in this country, that they blatantly put that out as a platform, Judge Weinberg? I mean, that's troubling.
It's clear. The DSA platform is very clear. No boycott, divest, sanction Israel. No recognition of Israel. Israel has no right to exist from the border to the sea. I mean, these people are absolutely insane, and they're raging anti-Semites. And that's the ticket of admission into the Democratic Party today. Ira, your thoughts?
Yeah, you asked the right question, Rita, because you said, have you ever seen it in this country? Because we've all seen it. This is what Hezbollah is for. This is what Hamas is for. This is what Nazi Germany in the 1930s was for. We have seen this before. And do not be confused. Just because the state of Israel exists does not mean these people are anti-Israeli. They are anti-Jewish. If they could get rid of all the Jews from New York City, they would do so, many of these people.
And it's
so
almost 100 years
a
later.
real wake-up call. Yep, that's exactly.
It's almost 100 years
right.
later. We're in 2026, and that was 1932.
Look at what happened to Dan Goldman. Democratic congressman gets denied service in a restaurant in Brooklyn because he's pro-Israel? Who does that? Could you imagine? Would we deny somebody who's black service because of some view that they have? There'd be an uproar. There should have been a bigger uproar, and the Democrats should have been the ones leading the uproar when Congressman Goldman got denied service at a restaurant.
I agree. It was appalling. And you're right. Switch another group out. What if it was a Muslim who was denied? Can you imagine the uproar that would have happened?
National.
Yeah, it would have been enormous.
You never get off the radios or the TVs.
Yep, absolutely. Governor Patterson.
Well, no, I just thought when that happened, it took me back to the people who were thrown out of restaurants during the civil rights demonstrations in the early 60s and the violence that came after that. But this is, I'm afraid, a precursor to violence, throwing people out of restaurants, not giving them a cup of coffee. What's next?
But, the Republican Party should take tremendous pride because we're cleaning up our own. The people who act like that inside the Republican Party are getting drummed out of the Republican Party. Thomas Massey in Kentucky, Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia. The Democrats should have and need to do the same within their party because this is dangerous for everyone. This began, if you remember, when Sarah Sanders, President Trump's press secretary, was denied service at a restaurant in 2018 in Lexington, Virginia. And the Democrats thought it was kind of cute. They thought it was good. She works for Trump. She didn't get served. They forced her out of the restaurant. She had it coming because she works for Trump. No. The answer then should have been Democrats to stand up and say, you can't do that. If you do it to one of us, you can do it to others of us.
Absolutely.
And now their chickens have come home to roost in Brooklyn, where it happened to a Democratic congressman. We all have to stand together. We can have political differences while still breaking bread. You can't break bread if you throw people out of restaurants.
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, to me, Ari, it's absolutely shocking. It's happening in 2026. And yet, I also want to see the rest of the Democratic Party come out and condemn it. I mean, their silence really speaks volumes. I mean, even the mayor was asked about it, and he was like, it was kind of a non-answer. And that opens the door.
And that's why you have to rise above. You have to still find your principles. As much as we're in a polarized era, this would have been the right thing for Democrats to have done in 2018 with Sarah Sanders. You notice it's Republicans now saying it about a Democratic congressman in New York. There's got to be times where we rise above.
Yeah, good point. Ed Cox.
So, Ari, what's the impact of all this craziness in the Democratic Party on the midterms? I'd love to hear your opinion.
Well, it's going to boost Republicans. I mean, it gives Republicans a verifiable talking point that the crazy is taking control, and you can't let these people have power. And there will be enough centrist, independent Democrats who this will have some sway with. So in what's probably a difficult year for Republicans, this is a boost.
And what do you think in the end? Does it really have a big impact that it will change the normal cycle?
It has every potential to do so. Every Republican candidate everywhere in every state needs to be making these new Democrat New Yorkers the face of the party. And it's not just New York City. Philadelphia just elected a socialist. D.C. elected a socialist congressman. D.C. elected a socialist mayor. You may have an election in the House in next week in Colorado in which a socialist defeats a longtime Democrat in Denver. So it's not just New York City. It is increasingly the face of the Democratic Party. And every Republican everywhere needs to make these people the voice and the face of the Democrats.
Yeah, 100%. I can see the ad all over again. The Americans will be horrified. Average common sense ones will be. Ari, thank you so much. We love having you. Thank you for joining us. We always appreciate your perspective so much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a great flight. Thank you very much.
And that's the great Ari Fleischer joining us yesterday on Katz and Company. And look, it's a double-edged sword, I think, for the Republicans to celebrate too much about these radicals, because the thing is in politics, John, and you know this well, every once in a while the other side wins, no matter how crazy they are. And I don't want to live through 2 years of a radical Democrat Socialist Congress, let alone 4 years. Or I would rather have this handled now.
Be careful what you wish for.
That's right. Be careful what you wish for. It's great to have, I mean, that's what they thought, by the way, when, for example, I think it was I forgot exactly the year, but it was probably 2004 in Illinois, when they were running for the Senate there. And they had a Republican guy there who was popular, and he was overjoyed that he was running against Barack Obama. Well, then there was a sex scandal with him and his wife, and he's out. And Barack Obama comes in, and the rest is history.
The judge said something, be careful what you wish for. I always wished to be on Sid and Company. And now I've had a whole week of Sid's show. 1 week. So, be careful what you wish for.
And you don't want to leave. You don't want to leave, that's for sure. Look, folks, it's a situation where we talked about it. We were the first. All those articles that came out that said it was a small percentage of voters that put these people over the top. We hit this first. We did the math for you. We told you there were 761,000 people in that district. We told you that 32,700 voters out of that 750,000 made this decision. Then everyone else jumped on the bandwagon. It's simple math. And you're not going to beat us to this kind of topic here when you're talking about our city and these politics. We have too many people here in this room right now and in this building right now who know better.
Lost to this radical fringe, dangerous candidate who's going to go into the House unless the House is smart enough not to seat her, and by 2,300 votes.
Yeah.
2,300 votes.
That's it, yeah. I mean, so she got 32,700 votes, but the difference was 2,300 votes. And we were on top of that from the morning of Wednesday morning. We were right here at 5 a.m. I was here at 5 a.m. doing the show. So, folks, this is simple math. And to call this the democratic process and just say, the people have spoken. No, the people haven't spoken. That's the point. And, Fernando, you've got to tell everybody in these communities that you have to vote and not and stop thinking that this doesn't affect you.
What scares me is that we don't know how many people voted without IDs in these neighborhoods, in these places. As you said, there's a lot of new people here, a lot of new immigrants, and they were brought in here so that they can vote because they know they don't have to show ID. So we need to really look at this very closely and figure this out. And I am telling my people, my community, go out and vote. If you're 40, 50, 60, 70, don't give up. Don't give up your right to these wild, young, white socialists that have entered our city and want to take over.
Right. One more thing I'll say, by the way, another thing, yet another example of these so-called establishment Democrats, and we'll go to break in a second, establishment Democrats who are losing, not just because of radical socialists beating them at the ballot box, but Gavin Newsom, the guy who thinks he's going to be the heir apparent, he's going to be the Democrat nominee in 2028 for president. He couldn't even in his own state. He's been pushing back against this billionaire tax. He doesn't want the billionaire tax. He knows it's going to chase even more business out of his state. So he was trying very hard to keep it off of the ballot for a referendum in California, and he lost. So Gavin Newsom also, I believe he's toast unless the DNC finds some way to shove him in, just like they shoved in Hillary and shoved in Joe Biden and then shoved in Kamala. He doesn't have a chance in an open primary system, I don't think, considering the kinds of people who come out to Democrat primaries right now. All right, 8:37, we're going to be back.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The legal team for Luigi Mangione is standing up for themselves and not for their client. Apparently, they were in negotiations for a plea deal for this guy. I'm sorry, this is an open and shut case. It's caught on tape, the murder. He put the names of the people he wanted to kill and his issues literally on the shell casings. This is the Judge Weinberg. This is the legal definition of premeditated murder. You cannot claim insanity when you have that kind of pre-planning and that kind of execution, no pun intended. And his legal team is now not going to try to save his life because you know why? They want the exposure, as Fernando told us off the air. They want the payday, as George said.
Why do you say that?
I say that because
no. Why do you say the legal team is doing this?
I think that they're trying to. They would like the legal team wants to get exposure and more money and names for themselves, and would rather use him as a sacrificial lamb.
That's just his opinion, John.
No, I'm not just trying to understand.
I understand.
That's my reason. That's my reason.
I understand. We just woke up Professor Dershowitz.
Oh, we did. Okay.
And he's on the air.
Okay. Professor Dershowitz, feel free to weigh in on this. We brought you in to talk about these Supreme Court decisions yesterday, but I'm not loving this defense team of Luigi Mangione. I don't think they're acting in his best interest.
I don't know how you would act in his best interest at this point. There's nothing you can do except try to get a reduced sentence. And he has nobody to turn in. You know, when I taught criminal law for years, I would start by saying to my students, if you ever want to commit a crime, the first rule is commit it with somebody more important than you so you can turn them in and they can't turn you in. And, you know, he didn't do it. And they got him on tape. They have him with a gun pointed to the guy. They have the names. The poor defense lawyers, they have nothing to do at this point. My feeling is that they wanted to put in this defense of emotional whatever, and the client said no. So I'm not agreeing with your guess that these lawyers are acting in their own self-interest rather than the interest of the client.
It's Richard Weinberg. I absolutely agree. That's why I asked the question. I think that he wants I think Mangione wants political theater. He's trying to make a public forum out of this for his views. That's my take. And the lawyers were trying to cut him a deal.
I understand that. He has nothing else in his favor. He has a lot of people supporting him. And I think his feeling is if he goes to trial and he gets a lot of support at trial, who knows? Maybe something good will go down the line. Maybe his time in prison will be easier. But I do think that it was he who made the decision, I'm not sure, that a trial benefits him rather than a plea that makes the case go away and he disappears.
If he has a mental incompetency plea, then what he's doing is undermining his political agenda, his ideological attack. That's why he wants the political theater.
I agree with that. I think even having submitted a letter saying he was going to plead emotional instability probably undercut his political, and he may have seen the reaction to it. But in any event, I think, has seen this case from the beginning as political theater. Tragically, it took the human life of a father of children, and it sent a terrible, terrible message in society. And, you know, it's a message that we're hearing in so many different contexts. Murderers are being praised, whether they're murderers from Hamas or Hezbollah or Iran, or whether they're individual murderers. Today, there are crazy people out there who support murder and who don't support innocent people and decency. I think we saw it in the election in New York. I think we're seeing it in the Mangione case. I think we're seeing it in a lot of different contexts, and it's changing our society for the worse. I think these are all symptoms of a terrible change in our society toward moving toward accepting violence as acceptable. We have members of people being nominated now to Congress who believe that Hamas was correct in killing 1,200 people and capturing 250 people, and they're being elected to Congress. We have people being elected to Congress, to the Senate, who wear a death tattoo for years and years. I mean, something is sick about our society, and we have to move that in the right direction, or we're going to be in real trouble. It goes way beyond Mangione, and it goes way beyond Tuesday's election.
Alan, there's a case coming up for decision in the next few days at the Supreme Court. It's the transgender case. It's the West Virginia case about the ban of having men being in women's sports. What are your thoughts about that case, and how's that going to turn out?
I think the Trump administration will probably win that case and probably lose the case involving birthright citizenship. So I think we're going to see a split in the last few days of the court. This has been a very, very significant court term with a lot of important decisions, most of them favoring Trump, but not all of them favoring Trump. And we're going to see a movement toward packing the court if the Democrats get control of the House.
And what about
they will try to pack the court, and they'll fail, but they'll try.
I agree with that, too. What about this case involving presidential power to remove people from agencies? What do you think that's going to do?
I think the president will prevail on that one as well. And speaking of removing people, there's also this interesting, I hope, test case that's going to go on. There's this federal judge who was having sex in her chambers so loud that her law clerks heard it. And there's a movement to impeach her. And I think it presents a very interesting test case because a lot of people think that in order to impeach a federal judge, you have to prove that they committed crimes like treason, bribery, or other crimes and misdemeanors, as I argued in the Senate in favor of President Trump. I don't think that's the criteria for judges. Judges are appointed for life, and then it says during good behavior. So I think if you can demonstrate lack of good behavior and having sex in your chambers and screaming loud and then lying about it, sounds to me like it satisfies the criteria of not good behavior. So I think they should try to impeach this judge and test the criteria for what it takes to impeach a judge, because I think it's different criteria than what it takes to impeach the president. After all, the president gets elected every 4 years. You know, like the president, throw the bum out. But a judge is there for life, and if they engage in bad behavior, they shouldn't continue to be able to be on the bench.
And I believe it was with another officer of the court. I mean, this wasn't just like some
police officer.
Police officer. So that's also a conflict of a bunch of employment stuff, on and on down the line. Let's talk about these decisions that did come down yesterday, including the one that says that while you're applying for asylum, the court said that we can continue, or we can at least keep these folks on the other side of the U.S. border. That seems like common sense to me. We have so many people running around with pending asylum cases, and we lose track of it. Were you surprised by the decision, or was there anything in there that didn't make sense to you? And then one more thing, the continuing hissy fit within the court between some of the judges we had. Sotomayor reading off her decision, her dissenting decision in this Hawaii gun case, and Justice Alito visually making all kinds of facial expressions showing his exasperation.
Well, you know, I know Justice Alito. I like him very much. He's an expressive guy. I grew up with a lot of Italian Americans. They don't hold their feelings back. And when you put them on the bench and you get a judge who is not supposed to have read her full opinion, didn't give any notice of it, I could see why he got a little annoyed. On the issue of keeping people seeking asylum outside, I have a split view on that. I think legally it's correct. Constitutionally it's correct. The president has the power to do that. I wish he didn't, because, I'm still somebody who thinks very hard about the 900 Jews on the boat St. Louis who were trying to come into the United States to escape the gas chambers. And President Roosevelt kept them out, and they all went back to Germany, and half of them died in death camps. So, when you have a really, really strong case for asylum that you're going to die if you're not allowed in the country, my feeling on the merits is that I wish they would let them in the country. Constitutionally, I think the court was absolutely right.
Are they, though, really? I mean, what percentage would you say of asylum seekers in the United States are facing a situation? I mean, granted, that was a very unique situation during the Holocaust, but what percentage of current asylum seekers are really facing that kind of human peril?
Well, if I were a president, what I would do is I would have a two-step process. If you can demonstrate that your life really is at stake if you're not allowed in the country, I'll let you in. But if you're just seeking asylum for reasons of helping your family, and delay and change wouldn't make any real difference. So I would have a two-step process and allow an asylum seeker to make the case that his life is really at stake. But that's up to the legislature. They can do that. And it's up to the president. It's not up to the courts to, as Justice Ginsburg said when she was on the court, the Supreme Court does not have a roving commission to do good or to do justice. They must comply with Article 3 of the Constitution, basically that says you need to have a case in controversy, and the court has narrow, limited jurisdiction. They're not there to just do good things. Sotomayor, I think, has a different conception of the court, and I understand her conception, but it's not what the Constitution set out, I think.
Professor, this is Fernando Mateo. How are you today?
Great, and you?
I'm doing great. Always a pleasure to speak to you. You enlighten, and you bring such incredible energy to the show every time you're on. My question to you is, what's going to happen with countries like the Dominican Republic when all the Haitians get deported there and then they try to cross the border over to the Dominican Republic. These are countries these are islands that are struggling. Although the economy in the Dominican Republic is very good, but they're fighting the invasion of the Haitians coming in. And believe me, I think every Dominican has some Haitian in them, okay? Because we're an island. Things happen, right?
Yeah, and great things. Great people have come from both those islands.
Yes.
I mean, think about baseball today without the Dominican Republic. It would be a much
ghost town.
American sport. In fact, you may have heard recently a group of black leaders complained that there were too many Central Americans in baseball and not enough genuine blacks. I mean, this is what happens when you have DEI, diversity. I always think, what would have happened to the New York Knicks if they were subject to DEI? They'd have to have 2 Irish players, 3 Italian players, a Jewish player. They'd have finished last. You do it on meritocracy. You do it on the merits. And on the merits, the Knicks had a, dominantly black team,
by the way,
as all basketball players do, and they did great.
Yes. Some breaking news from ABC, I guess, television news. Voting machine company drops $1 billion defamation suit against Mike Lindell.
Good.
But they bankrupt the guy.
Yeah.
They bankrupt him.
And also, you need malice to bring a suit. And Mike, whatever you might say about him, is a believer. He honestly believed it. And I think I don't think the court could satisfy the criteria of malice. So I'm glad they dropped it. Let Mike continue to sell his pillows. And, you can agree with him. You can disagree with him. I've represented him briefly in some matters in Arizona. And he's a true believer. And, that's what makes this country go around. Speaking of which, one point I want to make, it's going to be July 4th soon. And I have a July 4th book coming out. It's called Founding Fathers and One Jewish Mother. And it's a coffee table book with beautiful pictures of the original documents of the American Revolution and Israel. And it shows the incredible comparison between the founders of America, Washington, Madison, Hamilton, and the founders of Israel, Herzl, Ben-Gurion, Golda Meir. So I think if you need a gift for somebody for July 4th, you can get it on Amazon.
And the title is Founding Father. What is it again? The title, so everyone knows.
Founding Fathers and One Jewish Mother.
Yeah.
Golda Meir being the Jewish mother,
who came to Israel from the Ukraine by way of Milwaukee. A Milwaukee resident.
By way of Milwaukee, and she served me tea in her house in 1970 after I smuggled her a carton of Lucky Strike cigarettes. I didn't know that they killed, but Arthur Goldberg, for whom I worked, was a close friend of hers when she lived in Milwaukee and he lived in Chicago. And when I went to Israel to do an interview, he asked me if I would smuggle a carton of Lucky Strikes. I put it in my socks. I evaded Israeli security, and I probably contributed to her early death.
Well,
Professor, so you're a smuggler.
Woman.
You're a smuggler.
But in his defense, this is a great. I get to defend the great defender, Alan Dershowitz. In your defense, Professor, Golda Meir was an incredibly persuasive person. Just ask Henry Kissinger, Richard Nixon, and John F. Kennedy and the great beyond. She twisted all of their arms very, very effectively. Professor
There's
Dershowitz.
No question about that. And she was a great American, a great Jew, a great Israeli, and a great human being.
Yes, and at one time, the sweetheart of the Yishuv, but that's another story. Alan Dershowitz, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be right
you,
back
Alan.
with more, so much more here on the final day of the Katz & Company Takeover.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
General Blaine Holt, how are you this morning?
Hey, good morning. It's been quite a wild week. I'm doing
Oh my
great.
God! I'm waiting for all these commercials to get finished, etc., etc., etc. We are having a very large discussion this morning. America under attack, and that we're under attack in so many directions. We're under attack. Drug-wise, they're feeding drugs to our kids and other Americans. They are trying to cook our elections, etc., etc. I mean, you've been around for a while. You have the pulse of the situation. What do you say about all this?
Okay, you got to roll it all up into what is a global or world war. That's what this is. And how I would define this war, and it gets to all the things that you're talking about. It's the sovereigntists, which would be indicative of traditional American values that our forefathers and our founders had in mind for this nation, versus the globalists. And the globalists come with other dark names that are probably more descriptive: Marxism, socialism. They want the one world government. They want the corporatists all involved. They want to decide your lives for you. And they have many different legions and armies around the world. And some of those are hatched via those that would go cook your elections, those that would go buy off your politicians, those that would pay protesters to get out there and disrupt the American way of life. And eventually it leads to a place we've seen in history time and time again, and that is violence. And we're seeing it around the world and in the United States.
General Blaine Holt, let's talk about the different theaters in this war, because we've talked about them. It's not just one theater is global terrorism. Terrorism is one way. It's more of a conventional way. People thought that was the new way, but there's also fentanyl. There's also the financial attacks coming against whether it's cyber hacking, whether it's the money laundering that's going into our campaigns. And we were talking to KT McFarland in the last hour about, swimming in different lanes. But to me, ultimately, this is about homeland security. This is about defense. And I do think that the military it plays a bigger role in it than people realize. I mean, just look at all these boats from Venezuela or other countries that were bringing in drugs to this country that now have become part of the military's purview, bombing those, which everyone in this room supports. This is a changing world, but it is a multi-theater, multi-front war, isn't it?
It really is. But again, all these tentacles lead to exactly the same place. Your example on fentanyl. Fentanyl is not a new game. Fentanyl is just a rehash of the opium war that the British waged against the Chinese after the fall of the Qing dynasty in the 1800s. They just dusted off the old playbook. Wait a minute. That intelligence service goes all the way to the founding of MI6. MI6 then spawns the CIA. So what I would tell you is you tell me what the theater is, and I'm going to draw a line, whether it's from Beijing or whether it's from cooked intelligence agencies, whether it's from bought-off politicians, all the way to London. And I don't mean the town of London where people go get their fish and chips. I'm talking about the city of London, the financialists, those who have manipulated and tried to control this planet, basically in one incarnation or another since the fall of Rome. President Trump knows this. He is waging this war against them. And whether it's Operation Gladio that was cooked up from Alan Dulles and the CIA, all that stuff just evolved into where exactly we are in a fifth-generation warfare environment with technological tools that would make your head spin.
Well, let's talk about the technological tools, because this is an issue right now for the Defense Department. We just had this whole issue with Anthropic, this AI company, which was promising that it wouldn't help in anything that it didn't find politically amenable to that company. In other words, they have a bunch of lefty people working there, computer programmers, AI programmers, and Anthropic now, they're trying to work them out so they can maybe work with the Pentagon again. But, we need these people in the tech world to help our Defense Department fight the modern wars, but maybe we can't trust the people working in these companies. I mean, this is a huge problem.
It is. And even the ones, I could list a whole bunch of companies and you would say, well, they seem pretty trustworthy. And I would tell you, oh, no, they're not. And here's the problem. Let's get back to Alinsky's rules for radicals. The education unions should be patting themselves on the back, because you can't have Marxism and communism and legions of infiltrators inside all of these companies without cooking the education system and co-opting it. And that's where this begins. And then get to the leadership, what I would call their junior managers. They're junior managers, the CEOs of these AI companies. And just listen to their words. They believe in absolute surveillance state. They believe in central bank digital currency. They believe in it's okay to be on contract with the Pentagon, and if you don't like the policy, turning the switch off, cooking the information, changing it out. And then you've got the corruption class, which is only too happy to profit from all of it, and will stand up and boldly on C-SPAN defend every ounce of it. And so what we have to do is we better get to a season of accountability in this country and find out who is an American and who is on very, very shaky ground with that proposition. And some of the names would, I think, surprise everybody boldly when you lifted the veils. But I think that day is coming.
How does this, though, play out in some of the individual states? President Trump is, like President Reagan, still hoping to rebuild and strengthen our military, and that means local jobs for people. People remember the Los Angeles class submarine. It wasn't called that because they were rooting for the Rams. It was because it was built in Orange County, that area. This still is that the antidote to what you were just talking about? We start building things in Alabama and Louisiana and in places in this country where people still love this country.
That is where the front lines are, actually. The swamp likes to pat themselves on the back and think that they're the panopticon and the all-knowing, all-seeing. But the tentacles of the globalists go right on down to Main Street and have for some time now. It gets down to the granularity of we're co-opting your library board and putting porn in there for your kids to go look at. That's not because they believe in porn. It's because they believe in control and co-opting American communities. You have two prominent companies. I'm not going to say who they are, but we pretty much all know who they are, that are putting up cameras on every street corner in Main Street America, that they're using AI systems to do pre-crime prediction, that they're enabling their sheriff's departments to go after hardworking Americans. Now, if you think this isn't a problem, and I know you do, but if you think this isn't a problem, all you got to do is pull up the crystal ball called the United Kingdom and look at what's going on in London right now with the government's absolute war on the British peoples. The same thing is happening in Ireland. Ireland is at the brink of a civil war. So is the UK. So are 5 other countries in Europe. So what do we have in common? Well, this is Western civilization. And why are we so far behind the curve? Well, a couple of things. We still have a Constitution, a Second Amendment, and President Trump fully understands the battle space and what he's up against. But this is the battle for America, and it's happening on Main Street, most important battlefield of all.
Well, I mean, let's divert to Iran. Where we talked about America. Give us your pulse of what's going on in Lebanon and Iran for all Americans to listen to this morning.
Well, so in the region, which is part of this bigger fight, but in the region, we have a really, really good news this morning, which is, the Iranians threw a drone at a ship, and luckily it didn't sink the ship, the Singaporean carrier. They're releasing information this morning. They did so because they want to reiterate to Oman that they're in control of the straits, not Oman, who let that ship have authorization. President Trump's position is, no, neither of you are in control of the straits. By the way, that gets to Lloyd's of London and them using their surrogates to control that traffic. But in Lebanon, we also see great promise because the Israelis are coming much more into alignment with President Trump's vision of how to solve this. And we are seeing that the Lebanese are now standing up and getting their army ready to be vetted, fortified, trained, and work along the Israelis. And the two states each get something out of it. You get the sovereignty for the Lebanese, and you get the Israelis with their security needs respected. And because of the cooperation, we're on our way to the Abraham Accords. And that's the same way it's going to be with the Gulf states working with the free Iran that I do believe will come once the IRGC is eradicated.
General Blaine Holtz with us here. The Katz and Company Takeover of Sid and Friends in the Morning, day 6. You know all about sieges and things like that. But all kidding aside, you mentioned the situation in Lebanon. And, there's been peace talks going on this week, or they were going on this week in Washington, the second round. The first round of Israel-Lebanon peace talks were very productive. But, there's only so much dancing you can do around the fact that this really isn't about Israel and Lebanon. It's about Israel and Hezbollah. And Hezbollah is teetering in some ways, but still has a lot of teeth left in its mouth. What's your prognosis on that? Is this just a case of, and you talk about the Israelis getting more in line with the United States, is this just a case of patience? I mean, should we be saying to the Israelis, wait it out, this isn't the time, and we'll get, and you'll fit, you got half a loaf now, you'll get the rest of Hezbollah later. Is that a policy that you would get behind?
I could get behind that, absolutely. So what I would say is where Israel needs to have its focus now is tactical operations, defense, and watching the rest of us, including Israel, work together to, like Scott Bessent, chopping off the money, disrupting the supply chains. Lebanon arrests those in Beirut that are associated, and because there's no more money flowing to them, and their life support system through the IRGC has been cut. So when we talk about siege mentality, there's only one way out for Hezbollah, and it's not being a part of this planet. But I can see many of the remaining Hezbollah fighters. I think they have 15,000 just raw fighters left. I can see them either evacuating the country or reshaping their views about how they want to live their lives. But the IRGC is not about to be writing checks for them anymore, and this is our opportunity.
Let's talk about saving lives with Blaine Holt, General Blaine Holt. We're seeing the situation in Venezuela. I am seeing now that we are deploying to Venezuela. The military is going to be playing a much bigger role in the rescue than people might realize. And I think the Venezuelan people should be thankful that this happened when it happened. If Maduro's still in control and that old regime is still in control as it was just a couple of months ago, we are jumping through a lot more hoops to help them. This is going to be a proof to the American people in the whole world that the U.S. military also saves lives. In the end of the day, we save more lives than the other way around.
Oh, there's no question. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I have been in the middle of some of these humanitarian responses in my life in the Pentagon. And the rapidity and the fastness with which we deploy things like the Fairfax County USRT dog team and all the other elements. Right now, Venezuela is getting to see the size of the heart of this country as they go through this misery and this deep, deep tragedy. And it is horrific. But I'm talking to everybody from bankers who are getting involved in the response, recapitalizing things, already talking about reconstruction and fixing lives. And this is so good for Venezuela as they're coming back into the world. This is one of President Trump's greatest achievements, and we're not turning our backs on them at this critical moment like the rest of their old friends would. We are responding to the sound of gunfire, and I couldn't be more proud of the military in getting after those missions.
General Fernando Mateo here. Thank you for being on the show with us today. It's always enlightening. But my question is, we all know that the U.S. takes lead when there are disasters anywhere in the world. We have seen that there's a lot of countries now joining the United States and bringing aid and help to Venezuela. And we have a nice size Venezuelan population here in New York and in Miami and other places around the country. Do you think that there's going to be an opportunity for those Venezuelans for at least the next year to remain in the United States because of this disaster in Venezuela?
Yeah, I think that would follow the natural course. I can't imagine why it would be in this country's best interest to be deporting folks. Now, the criminality is another matter.
That's a different issue, yeah.
Yeah, it's a totally different issue. But yeah, no, I think you're probably identifying something that's already working its way through the State Department as we speak. But and we absolutely have a historic precedent for when things like this happen. We tap the brakes on our normal processes. And right now, I can tell you that in Washington, D.C., any place, any computer, any email where the name Venezuela pops up, it's the priority. It's got priority. And so I think you're on the right track with how that's gonna unfold.
Yeah. All right, we got a break coming up. General Holt, thank you so much for coming on today, and thank you for everything you've done for our country, and continue to speak out for our country. And we'll catch up with you again real soon.
And we'll hear from Suzanne.
My pleasure. Happy 250th.
Oh, that's right. Almost time for that. Suzanne Miller will be joining us.
Yes.
We'll come back.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Suzanne Miller, last night the city voted on freezing rents. I just want to know your reaction and the reaction of the residential landlords.
John, it's not pretty. So I raised an alarm about this last year, if you recall. He did what he said he was going to do. He won the election by this policy. If you freeze 1 million apartments, that figure 2 people live in an apartment, that's 2 million votes. Stack the board. It was a 7-to-1 freeze on 1 to 2 year leases, and he did what he said he was going to do. So any lease that starts October 1, there'll be no freeze. He appointed his friends, I would say. The board said they acted independently. I do not believe that is the case. Even one member, Christina Smith, resigned because she said it was stacked. The Real Estate Board of New York says this is it's really going to kill the small landlords, John, and this is a very big concern because it's just going to be a ripple effect on New York. because the insurance goes up, the labor goes up, the fuel goes up, the taxes goes up. And what happens to the small landlords? They're going to have to, if they don't make the repairs, then the city can impose fines. Eventually, they can take the buildings back from these small landlords. And that's called what? What is that called, John?
Communism.
Thank you. So that COPA will come back on the market, they're going to try and pass that now. And what happens now, when the rents get frozen, the net operating income becomes lower, the sales price gets lower, people can't make the repairs, so they return it to the bank, and then regional banks will, in New York you're going to see them start to close. I mean, I know this sounds very glim, but I think it's horrific. I think it's horrific, and I think it's a way to squeeze landlords, Jews, Christians out of New York City. It's a scare tactic, and it's working because, I can't even answer the calls I'm getting. I feel so bad for these small landlords. For 2 years, they can't, and he's forcing them to make the repairs. So you have a squatter in there. You got to make a repair for them. You can't raise their rent, or you can't collect any rent, and there's no reprieve for these small landlords. And the small landlords are the fabric of New York City. This is what New York City is made of. But it was pretty brilliant because he said he was going to do it. He got probably 2 million votes this way, and it went through. There was no question it wasn't being passed. And that's what I have to say.
Judge Weinberg?
Suzanne, you're absolutely correct. And when he created this entity to have hearings on bad landlords, that's to set up the propaganda machine to go out there and to get a constituency so that when they fail to make the repairs because they don't have the ability to make the repairs, to seize the buildings and then to...
And the city, who's going to take the buildings? The city's going to take the buildings. They're the worst landlords. They have NYCHA right now. There's rats.
The worst landlord in the entire city. Why doesn't he clean up that first?
Yeah.
Why does
it's on its way to socialism. Maybe communism. And my father was born in Leningrad, so I know about this. And you know what, John? It was brilliant because he said it and he did it, and that's how he won the election. And you know what you say? Fight, fight, fight. We're going to fight, fight, fight.
Suzanne, this happened. I don't think there's turning this back. I'm sure there's going to be legal action taken to try to reverse it, but it's happened. What do we do now? We have to live with it, right? We have Mondami's our mayor. He's not going anywhere.
You know what we have to do now? We have, these are 2 million votes, okay? Maybe 3 million votes, but there's still 8 million people in the city. And those people have to stop being silent because all of a sudden, when the bonds go down, when the people that are living in Florida and they still own their places in New York and they realize they're worth 50% on a dollar because banks won't lend in New York, you can't refinance, you can't take the money out. You're being penalized for the privilege of owning in New York a pied-à-terre tax. The privilege of owning. We need to get the 6 million people that are sitting on their ass to do something and vote.
Well, we saw that that's not happening because in the congressional race recently, 3 socialists won, and less than 10%. They won with less than 10% of the vote in their district. So, the 40 to 50 to 60-year-olds need to come out and vote. We agree with that. But what do you recommend now to those landlords, the small landlords that are going to be suffering the consequences? Because we can't keep complaining about it. We need to do something about it.
I totally agree with you. The only thing you can do is you can wake everybody up and realize this is, like he does. He goes and he marches and he gets all these votes. We need to combat it with people. The only way to do it is to get everybody on board. There's 6 million other people that probably do not agree with this.
And also, Suzanne,
we have to get those people.
You understand what he just did out of City Hall. He created an entity within City Hall, a community engagement group paid for by taxpayer dollars to go out there and radicalize the community and organize the community and have these staged demonstrations. He's doing that, too, with governmental money, taxpayer money.
Well, Richard, don't you think this is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany? This is exactly what happened. We're following it, except that the people put their head in the sand. The only way people wake up is when it affects their own dollar. So we have to wake people up because there's going to be a reset of the real estate prices in New York. That's for sure. And you're not going to be able to take money out because the banks are not going to lend. And probably the small regional banks will even go out of business.
Remember, Suzanne, you remember Bronx? You don't remember, you're not old enough, burning. But Bronx is burning. What happened with Bronx burning? Why don't you tell the audience about that?
I'm too young to.
Well,
know
that was when
That's when they abandoned the property. Landlords couldn't afford to maintain it.
Don't make her older than she is.
That's right. I apologize. So, as the 100-year-old man in this room, I apologize to you.
Suzanne, this is George Venizelos.
Hi, George.
I'm going to give you the other side why he got some of these votes. You know, I have two kids that live in the city. One's looking for an apartment now. When you go look for an apartment for these kids now who are making $80,000 a year, you know, out of college,
right.
You have 20 to 30 people looking at one apartment. Say an apartment's going for $4,500. That apartment will end up going for $5,500. Yeah, and that is totally out of control. It really is.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad you brought that up because this is what's going to happen. If you have 1 million people that have their rents are frozen, they're certainly not moving, which means you take 1 million apartments off the market. What happens to the market rate free apartments? Those go up because there's less supply. The less supply, the higher the rent. So now the rents are going to go higher.
Yeah. You know what else is happening? I looked at 3 apartments yesterday near the office here. All 3 couldn't sell. They're condos. So now they're renting them. And now there's bidding wars on the rent. So they're not, people are afraid to buy now in New York City because of this guy. So there's a lot of fear there. Why would I buy now?
Well, as an investor, why should I build more buildings?
Right.
Why should I build another apartment building in New York?
Especially when you can do it in Florida.
I mean, I do it in Florida where it's a free market.
Yeah, and we don't teach our kids supply and demand. Suzanne Miller, this is Jake Novak. Listen, but your other catchphrase, Suzanne, is never bet against New York. So let's look about this long term. Is this a buying opportunity? Now people believe this is not good, and maybe this is someone who has the finances and the patience.
Here's a buying opportunity because if you are looking for net operating income, and John, you just said you wouldn't build in New York, but if you build fair market price apartments, those prices are going to go up because people will need a place to live. The young kids are sharing. I'm finding people going into 1-bedrooms and putting walls up and getting $5,000, and they're all sharing. So if they want to be in New York, the free market apartments are going to go higher.
And walk around New York these days. Maybe I'm getting older. It's young.
Listen,
it's getting younger.
I just hope that these landlords that are small are going to survive, and those that have a lot of money. Those that have a lot of money will survive because they can write off the losses, right? So, listen, I think that this is an opportunity for people that want to invest in New York, and it's a sad day for small real estate owners.
What happens is there might be a deflation in prices because if a building is worth $10 million, well, maybe it's not worth $10 million because you have to deal with the politicians. So maybe it's worth $8 million. So,
John, it all comes down to the net operating income. So if I told you a building is $1 million and you have to freeze the rent and your expenses are more than the value, you're not buying it. You have to reset the price depending upon what your expenses are. And now he's mandating that you fix these buildings or he'll seize them. He's mandating. I know one landlord. Actually, he's a friend of mine. He owns buildings in the Bronx. They're taking his building.
Unbelievable.
They're actually taking his building.
Suzanne Miller, last question. How does this potentially affect positively? Forget about Florida for a second. What about, because we're talking about all these young people, George Venizelos. What about young people now looking at these neighborhoods in Westchester County, Nassau County, maybe in some cases Suffolk County, and some parts of New Jersey that are on a train line that they can get to the city? I mean, listen, there's some parts of Manhattan that take more than 30 minutes to get from one part to the other. So if will this positively affect the rental real estates and the condos in Westchester, Nassau, Suffolk County, and some of these, and like Bergen County?
Well, I could just tell you that I was looking in Greenwich just because I was, looking at Plan B, and the prices are up by 100%, 70%. It's insane what's happening outside of New York. So yes, I think it's going to, as long as there's a direct train line, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, Roslyn, Connecticut, those places will do very well.
Jersey City and
I'm
Hoboken
still not betting against New York. What?
Jersey City and Hoboken are the same price as Manhattan now.
Yeah. So it depends on where you find it. Fernando Mateo, you just ruined his future plans. He was thinking about
No. I can afford it. Yeah, Suzanne, if you find a good deal for me in Greenwich, let me know.
Good luck with that. Let me know. Suzanne Miller, we got to take a break.
This is my advice to your listeners. If you want to buy in New York, just make a low offer and you'll get what you want.
I'm talking about Greenwich.
Suzanne, we love you. Thank you so much for coming on, and keep fighting for New York.
Thank you, John.
We're going to take a break, and then we're going to have Congressman
Mike Haradopoulos.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Do not worry. I have the crowbar ready to remove Fernando Mateo from the studio because it's going to take 2 crowbars.
Listen, I am bolted down. I'm going to wait for Sid in this chair till he gets here on Monday.
I'm going to need a blowtorch to get you out of here.
I've got to thank Justin Ellick and Lou Rufino. These guys have been amazing this week. You know, they've even put the song, the sad song, Because We Are Departing. Guys, you are the best. I love you. And listen, that's not my closing statement, so let's move on.
Let's go to Congressman Mike Haradopoulos. Are you ready for the millions of New Yorkers who are continuing to come down to your estate? That's the first question.
Well, it is amazing. He is the best real estate agent we have. We appreciate the good work of the mayor. Communism where everyone shares the misery equally. Thank you very much, Mayor Mandami.
But what are some of the other issues? You've got a big governor's election going on right now in Florida, and I don't think that the polls are too troubling. It looks like Byron Donalds is going to be there, and they'll have continued. Remember, Florida used to be a swing state, but it becomes more and more red and more decisively pro-capitalist and pro-American every day. But what are some of the other issues that you're facing there? I mean, honestly, it's still a big barometer of America, as hard as it is for a New Yorker like me to say.
No, it is still the place to be. I mean, as you know, no state income tax. We're attracting a lot of those big companies northeast and one of the boom industries, of course, is the space industry. You saw the recent valuation of SpaceX, $1.75 trillion. And you're seeing huge investments there. It's really booming because people are voting with their feet. They realize that New York is not the same anymore, and they realize in Florida you get a lot more for your money. And so people are moving down here, not just for the weather or for the tourism, but for the jobs of the future. And so we're booming because other states just can't compare. Because at the end of the day, what the unique American experiment is all about is this boring term called federalism. Federalism is voting with your individuals.
And Congressman is rubber banding a little bit. We're talking to Congressman Mike Haradopoulos, and we'll try to get a better connection with him. Another issue we probably could talk with him about is the fact that there are a lot of Venezuelans who live in Florida.
A lot of
And clearly right now, that's going to be an issue.
By the way, the other thing, NASA is part of his district.
Okay.
So you could ask him anything you like about NASA.
So I don't know if he can hear us now, but...
That's what he's trying
Not
to
yet.
say.
Or we're trying to get a better connection with them. Cocoa Beach. And by the
Are
way,
we trying to call him back?
Yeah, we're trying to call him back. By the way, if you've never been to a launch in Cocoa Beach, particularly at night, I highly recommend it because if you go, they let you get pretty close relatively to the launch pad.
Wow.
And as you watch it, which is amazing to see, and the spacecraft flies over your head, you feel the heat, the intense heat of the rocket boosters. It's incredible.
You've been there too?
It was just a visit. I didn't live there, Fernando. Give me a break. Going to these launches is something I highly recommend, something that New Yorkers are completely unaware of that we should check out. All right, Congressman, you're back. We were waxing poetic about the fact that you represent, and you mentioned it a little bit, the space industry, and I was telling everyone that you got to go to these launches, especially these night launches. It's such a great thing in Cocoa Beach.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, what's really neat, and literally when they take off, remember, they take off every 2.5 days now. That's how prolific the flights are going off. If you go one of these flights at midnight, it's literally 12 noon for about 30 seconds. That's the power and thrust of these engines that go off, and it's creating satellite networks that connect us all around the world today. And they're also the future of the military. As you know, we need all of these to make sure that our men and women in the military have those GPS technology and can maneuver around the world successfully. It's an exciting time. And in the next few years, we're actually going to have a moon base and propel ourselves to Mars because of the South Pole there.
And Congressman Mike Haradopoulos, this isn't just about NASA. This is about helping Americans economically. For years, the argument against the space program was, we got all these problems here on Earth, we can't. But if we get satellites, for example, with solar panels that can capture solar power at much higher intensity than we do here on the ground, and we can have AI data centers in space instead of in here. I mean, this is going to create finally some power surplus for us and some money. I mean, you talked about the SpaceX IPO. This is no longer we can't afford it anymore thing, is it?
No, it is not. As again, it is proven by the SpaceX valuation at almost $2 trillion. It's the future. It's where innovation is coming from. And look, no one wants a data center in their backyard. And Elon Musk has proven over and over again, whether it be a Tesla, SpaceX, PayPal, of course now what used to be Twitter. I mean, he has revolutionized the way we do business every day. He's giving blind people the ability to see. I have a lot of confidence that he's going to break through a lot of technologies so we reduce energy costs and don't have some of these concerns that people have about AI data centers, which, of course, use a lot of energy, let alone water.
Congressman, have you met Elon Musk?
I have. I don't interact with him regularly, but I have met him. As you know, I chair the space committee here in the Congress, and we could not be more thrilled that we have billionaires in my backyard spending a lot of money, creating a hell of a lot of jobs. Because remember, Florida used to be known as kind of service jobs, Disney jobs. Now you have this space industry here. We have a lot of the big military contractors down here. So it's become a big high tech, or what they call basically the STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and math, because we're simply doing it better. We actually have school choice instead of being run by the unions like they are in New York.
Let's talk about Blue Origin, because we've talked about SpaceX. Blue Origin, they've got a ways to go. They had that crash on the launch pad recently. Mm-hmm. But listen, every business needs good competition. So as much as you're interacting with SpaceX, and they're the leaders right now in private aviation for sure, I don't think there's really much arguing that. What can you do? I mean, let's get back to our first question. How can you invite more business into the area and so that there is more competition?
Well, that's a beautiful thing. When you guys come on down here, when you eventually leave New York, you'll actually come to my district. And they have, again, Blue Origin, ESA, Relativity. There's even a new company called Stoke. These are all rocket companies that have now started to compete with SpaceX. But Blue Origin's a fantastic company. Yeah, they had that problem on the launch pad, but they figured that out, I think. And they're the ones who are also going to be landing on the moon. It's not just the SpaceX lander, but Blue Origin also has a contract with NASA to be the second lander that will go into the moon. And so they're doing great work. Again, one thing that Elon Musk has said, and I believe, space is hard. So you're going to have some challenges. The good news is, as you know, with that recent explosion, it was a static test. No astronauts were on board. Yes, we had an explosion, but they're already ramping up their activities because I want that competition. That's what drives down costs, and that's what allowed this industry to really, no pun intended, take off.
Elon Musk has really brought down the cost and efficiencies. I mean, I was very, very disgusted that I've been in the aviation industry for 50 years, maybe 60. And the fact is, we had Concorde, 70-year-old technology, and we have not replaced the Concorde with supersonic airplanes at all in the aviation industry. In the space industry, I mean, we haven't come that far. I mean, Elon Musk is making progress by being able to create rocket ships that take off and land, so you don't just throw them away in the Atlantic Ocean all over again. Mm-hmm. So Elon Musk has done a lot for the space industry.
Oh, no doubt, John. You're exactly right. And that's the future. I mean, again, you're going to see eventually tourism. You're going to see people living on the moon because of the innovative things he takes on. And when Elon Musk challenges people like that, other innovators come in and play hard. And that's what we're trying to do. To your point, for too long, this technology was static. Now it's changing, and I think much for the better. And it is bringing down costs radically to put things up in space, more than tenfold in the recent years.
Well, the one thing we know is that there won't be a rent freeze on the moon. Congressman.
Yeah. Thank you, Congressman, for coming on. And
Mike Haradopoulos.
And we'll talk to you again real soon.
Yeah, no rent freeze.
And now,
have a great weekend, guys.
Thank you. We got 1 hour, 1 minute and 11 seconds left to our time period, and it's over.
John.
Fernando, it's over.
John, my closing statement here.
It's going to take over a minute?
No, it will not. I leave you with this. When you want something bad enough in life, don't stop chasing it. I wanted 5 minutes on the Sid Rosenberg show. Instead, I ended up hosting the entire week while Sid was away. Dreams become reality when preparation meets opportunity. Thank you, Sid. Thank you, Chad Lopez. Thank you, John Catsimatidis, the entire WABC family, and especially all of you, our listeners.
27 seconds. Judge, what do you have to
I'll
say?
see
Are you
you
gonna miss
Sunday between 6 and 7 p.m. on the No Excuses with Fernando Mateo.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?